Welcome to the dark side of BEASTwriter. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we have the pleasure by being joined by Dante Stills out of West Virginia. Let's bring him in here. Dante, how are you doing today, my guy? Thank you for
Man,
joining
I'm
us.
good, man. I appreciate you having me. I'm doing great.
Man, from the first time I saw you in practice and just evaluating the game film, you're a guy that really stood out. It's a guy that I circled on my little spreadsheet there, and I was very, very excited to watch you live because obviously you play at West Virginia. So I have, when you see things from a different lens, maybe from watching it, just being able to see you rather
Right.
than just watching the film, you see things that maybe you otherwise wouldn't see. One of the things that I did like about your game is you're very aware on what's going on in terms of your attention to detail oriented. Like when other coaches are talking to other players, even though you're not mentally or physically inside the rep, you're watching it from a distance and picking up on things. So I thought that was very impressive by you.
Appreciate
So
it. Thanks.
that's just something that I wouldn't otherwise see on film because when you watch film, you just get the film and that's the
Right.
end all be all.
Sure.
But no, it's really got to know you a little bit on a personal level, and it's been nothing but fun. So I thank you for hopping on the show
Of
and
course,
taking time
man.
out of your busy schedule because you are a busy guy. Uh,
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. No, you guys, it's all good. I definitely, got some time, so I'm definitely excited to be on for sure.
yeah, it's definitely fun times. All right, so we're just gonna go and talk about you, and this is basically your platform, right? So I want to give you the platform for anyone who doesn't know who Dante Stills is. You're doing yourself a disservice. Dante Stills can play the 3 technique, the 2-eye technique, the 4 technique. He can line up in a 2-point stance and scream off the edge and a 34 base or 4-3 front. So I really like your game. Like I said, something that really impressed me was your ability to move in space at the weight that you're at. You clocked in at the East West Shrine game around 290. Is that correct?
Right. That's correct. Correct.
And you move you're 265. Like it's amazing. Like I don't know how you can move so quick, have the lateral agility. Where does that come from?
Definitely I feel like definitely just natural, the way I was born sometimes, but at the same time, I feel like I did have great coaches over the years that taught me how to, properly move and stuff like that, proper techniques. A big shout out to, my strength coaches over at West Virginia, Coach Mike Joseph and all of them. The boys always got me right for the last 5 years. My weight was fluctuating. My body was going all over the place, but they got me to a perfect size and a perfect weight for sure.
No, definitely. How did you like your visit here in Vegas? You told me earlier that was your first time here. What was that experience like here in Sin City?
It was definitely my first time. As I've never been to Vegas. I've always just seen it on movies or seen it just on pictures, but definitely being there was definitely exciting. I definitely didn't, I didn't experience the way everybody else does because I was there for business, strictly business and stuff like that. So I definitely enjoyed my time. I learned a lot from the coaches, and I definitely I feel like I went there and handled business. So
You definitely handled business. And your father, Gary, played for KC, Baltimore, along with the Los Angeles Rams. What
right.
father son advice did he give you when going into the draft process?
It's really to stay focused. It's going to be a stressful time for you. It's like you're not going to know where you're at in the eyes of them coaches. So it's kind of like go out there and handle business and do what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't control, really. So that's really what it is. Staying locked in and stuff like that.
Yeah, staying locked in and you're only in control what you can control, right? So you can only
Right.
control so
Exactly.
much.
Right.
Outside forces, other things like that's out of control. So there's no point worrying about that. So
Right.
that's a really good sound advice from father to son. What do you like to do maybe outside of football that maybe people don't know? Kind of to unwind and just kind of get your mind off of the game of football.
Like I said, well, it's kind of hard to get my mind off the game. I said I definitely watch a lot of D line videos and clips like that. A lot of podcasts and stuff like because like I feel like the pod like the pivot and all that is very informational. It gives you good information, a lot of free game. I probably watch all of them. And I mean at this time of year, like right now, I like to just relax, sleep. I sleep a
Yeah.
lot and I eat. So it's really just a daily. I wake up, work out, eat, sleep, relax. That's kind of like my whole deal right now. I might go outside and enjoy the air, but really other than that, I'm not really a big. Like right now, it's kind of like I'm trying to stay focused on one thing. So
And that one thing is football. So you're
Yeah,
very
ball
passionate
for
about
sure.
football. Yeah, you're very
Yes,
passionate about football. If you
yes,
eat, breathe, drink, sleep football, that's what scouts like
yes,
to hear. And
yes.
it's very interesting because when I ask some of these other prospects what they like to do outside of the game of football, um, to unwind or get your mind off of things, you hear things like fishing and hunting, and that's all cool,
Hmm.
cool. But at the end of the day, I like hearing the grind. I like hearing that,
Yeah,
it's just football all the way through and through. And so that's
yeah,
really, really cool about you. That's yeah, you have to, this is your job, right? This is your
yeah.
job and career path.
It kind of drives me crazy, but at the same time, I love it. I love it. That's the reason why, I got myself into this knowing, all the sacrifices I had to make. So, for sure.
And and then also during the East West Shrine Bowl festivities, what are some things that you wanted to prove here as you enter the draft process with the NFL Combine coming up?
I definitely want to prove that I'm definitely one of the best out there. Especially at my position, I feel like I'm very versatile. I want to show that. I want to show that I work hard. Every play 100%, and really they can trust me. I want to be a guy that they can depend on in the next level. The guy they can step in and play his role very well, and stuff like that. And guy that can contribute
Mhm.
to whoever team whether that I get picked.
And obviously, there's obviously strengths in our games and weaknesses in our games. There's always something that we can work on and improve on, right? So
Right.
if somebody was to ask you what your biggest strength is when it comes to your NFL game or converting to the NFL level, or what your biggest weakness is, what do you think those two things are?
Definitely my quickness. I
Mhm.
feel like I definitely improved to that, and my ball get off at the timing of the snap.
Mm.
And plus, a lot of times, I kind of ID, like kind of where the play is going beforehand. I look at the backs alignment, the splits of the offensive line, so I kind of go into that, and my strengths is really, I play the run very well. I feel like that's kind of like the best part of my game. I play the run very well. I like to be in the mix a little bit, get double, stuff like that. Set off blocks. I like to make plays. It's plays there. I'm gonna make it for you guys. If not, I'm definitely gonna try hard the next play to make that play or a big play.
At the East West Shrine Bowl, watching from the press box, I was keying in on you. I like watching the lines, the offensive line, the
Yeah.
defensive line. To me, that was the most fun part about covering the Shrine Bowl game.
Yes.
From the press box, you were double teamed like almost on every given play, but you're still making plays at or near behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
One play in particular that I want to talk about is the one where you made the swim move and you beat that double team, and then you got in the backfield and made the tackle
Mhm.
for loss. Talk about what you saw on that play to kind of slip that block on the backside and still get home.
It's really, I kind of knew where to what this so like, based on where the back was, I kind of understood where the line of scrimmage was gonna go. So,
Oh,
so I kind of adjusted off that, and plus, like, you know, I just wanted to get upfield. So any way I can get upfield, cause a structure in the back end, cause a handoff to be kind of mishandled. So I try just cause I try to cause havoc. That's kind of like my whole game. Like if I don't make the play, that's cool as long as I'm, doing my job, getting upfield, setting blocks.
and one thing that I noticed about your game as well, when going back to the game film, you can play a 2-eye technique. Correct me if I'm wrong. I saw you lined up at 2-eye. I saw you lined up at 4 technique, a 3 technique, sometimes in a 2-point stance. Is that all correct? Number one, and number two, how do you think that's going to bring value up in your draft stock as it comes to the draft process because you are so versatile?
So I definitely did play all those positions. A shout out to my my D line coach, Coach Jackson, and Coach Leslie that put me in a situation where I'm able to play, constant, kind of everywhere on the line.
Mm,
And yes, I did have an opportunity to stand up, one time against Iowa State. It was a
mhm.
pass rush, so I stood up one time. I got the sack, thank God. Um, and yeah, I just wanted them to know that I could play all across. I feel like that helps me in my position because I mean, not everybody plays across the board. So
Mm.
if a guy like that plays across the board is able to play everywhere, so I wouldn't say he's more valuable, but more like like you gotta put. Wait, hold up. I'm gonna get the right words. like you can kind of put him out there, and I feel like he'll do a good job either way, for sure.
No, absolutely. And I get what you're saying. The more you can do, the more valuable you are
For
to
sure.
that team. One of the things, that I think is very important for a young player going into the NFL and transitioning into the NFL is we talk about versatility a lot. And so when training camp rolls around and all these other things roll around, my job or how I like to do business is I like to formulate the analysis based on the more you can do. And oftentimes it comes down to special teams. A lot of these roster cuts come down to what you can do on special teams. If you can
Right.
be the
Exactly.
primary gummer, if you can be the up back.
Right.
So if you're doing well in coverage in the return game, and then you can kind of figure out like which players really love football, right? Because
Hmm.
if they're just like, oh, it's special teams, I don't care, man. I'm gonna tell you something. The kicking game is just as important as offense and defense. And so I think that's really important. And I think that going back to watching it, how you prepare and practice and how you are very attention to detail oriented, I don't think you'll have a problem with that at all. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about some other things. We all have bad days in life. We all have bad games on
Hmm.
Sundays sometimes, or Saturdays, with the kids Fridays, back in high school. Who do you rely on for moral support when you're having, just in general, it doesn't have to be football, but a bad day? Who do you rely on for that moral support?
It's usually my mom. I come my family back home in Fairmont. My grandparents. My older brother Darius. I kind of talk to them because like to keep it real with me.
Mhm.
It's especially after a bad game, they keep it real. How I played. So really, I kind of lean on them for advice, especially when they're like, especially these last couple seasons, like they've been kind of front row. So it's kind of I always love feedback and stuff like that, and love the real because like if you're just telling me something kind of just telling me to make me feel good,
Right.
that ain't really helping me at all. So I
Right.
always like the real and stuff like that. So I like my family, and my coaches, they're always kept it real with me. So for sure.
And if someone was to ask you, what does football mean to you? What does football mean to you?
Uh, Man, it means everything. It took me places, that I didn't think I would ever, go to. It put me in a position where, I could take care of my family one day.
Mm,
It just there's a lot of things. It brought me peace. It's the only time I feel really peaceful. Is I'm out on that field. So, I'm kind of all collected in one, kind of on the field. I'm kind of my mind's clear and stuff like that. So really, it just brought I can't even give the right answer because it just brought me so much like friendships, um, a lot of friendships that I can invite him to my wedding one day.
mm.
It's a lot of stuff. Especially in college, I met all my guys through college. Really, that I can I can consider a best friends for a long time for sure.
I think pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? And I could just tell by your facial expression and your excitement when I ask you that question that
Yeah.
one word comes to mind, and that's passion. You're very passionate about, and you're very humble. Like the way how you're talking about my friendships that I made over the years and how what they mean to me. That goes a long way, and lifelong friendships definitely help in the world of sports. So.
Right.
That's really cool backstory there. All right, let's go ahead and talk about something else, right? So we talked about football, we talked about your bad days, you talked about your dad, good days, bad days, strengths, weaknesses, everything in between. Is there anything that you necessarily hate about football, and if so, why?
I mean, there's always things that like you don't want to do. The hardest part about football is really just the off season workouts.
Hmm.
The lifting, waking up early, like it gets repetitive, and you get tired. But I wouldn't say I hate it. It definitely helped my game. It
Hmm.
helps. It helps a lot of people doing off season workouts. It changes their whole body, whole mindset. So I wouldn't say I necessarily hate anything about football. You know, it's really just like this point where it gets hard. You get tired. Or tired all day. But other than that, I don't want to say I hate anything about football. Now the NFL, the only thing I really don't like is like the the wait,
Huh.
hold up. It's when you sat. It's when you oh it, wait roughing the passer. That's the only thing that I
Hmm.
don't like because like how do you supposed to hit the quarterback without slamming them or because like QBs now can run, they're big, so it's really hard to take down QBs. Now I won't say it's hard for everybody, but
Right.
um there's certain guys where you got to hit them extra hard for them to go down. But that's really the only thing. I really don't hate anything about football for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Um, so we talked about all these different things about you and getting to know you on a personal level and kind of like for the viewers, right? To get to know the prospect.
Yeah.
Um, you had a lot of fun. I felt like you were a team leader in practice. You led by example. You didn't really say too much. You let your game do the talking.
Hmm.
Is that something that was always ingrained with you as a kid growing up? Is just not saying too much, just letting your work do the talking for you?
Yeah, I was always a guy that likes to talk a lot. I'm kind of very outgoing. I get along with pretty much everybody that I kind of come across. But yeah, I want my game to speak for itself for sure. There's times where I do talk a little crap. That's just part of the game. Talk a little back and forth. That's part of the game. But at the same time, I always want my game to speak for me. Obviously, if O line, can't stop, our defensive line. Of course, I'm gonna say some few words, kind of getting ahead. But overall, I definitely don't, go to that first. I want to make plays before I say anything. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to just go out there and start chirping and not
Yeah.
make any plays or do anything crazy. I definitely want to have.
All right. Looks like we lost Dante.
Everything
Dante, you
good?
there? Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
I'm
good.
good. I'm good. I'm good.
We're
Good.
good. Made sense. It made a lot of sense. But yeah, going back to it, you talk about how you let your game do the talking and you don't say much. You don't do a lot of chirping, but you do kind of banter a little bit because that's part of the game. I did the same when I
Yeah,
played. I think that kind of elevates a confidence level factor about yourself when you can kind of back up what you're saying. But then if
yeah,
you're
for
not
sure.
backing it up, bro, you shouldn't be talking.
Exactly, exactly. Like, let's just say, I have a bad game. I'm not really doing anything out there. I'm not gonna say too much, just because,
Yeah.
like, I'm not doing, like, I'm not dumb. I'm not gonna talk crap when I didn't make no tackles and do anything crazy. So, but if I'm doing good and doing my thing, I'll say some few words. But other than that, I kind of relax a little
No, I like that about you. I like that swagger about you. I think, like
bit.
I said, it's confidence level
Yes.
that kind of drives you to kind of motivate self motivation, right? I think self motivation
Yeah,
is key.
for sure.
Um, that always, for some reason, that always, it's like, okay, if I'm going to talk, I better back it up, and you definitely back it up.
Right.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's go ahead and talk about something else here. If there was something like if there was, an NFL scout watching, whether it be with the Eagles, the Niners, the Steelers, whatever the case may be, because all 32 NFL teams were present
Right.
at the Shrine Bowl festivities. What's the one thing that you want NFL scouts to know about you that maybe they don't know?
It's really, like I I can play anywhere at a high level. I
Mm,
don't want them to think, I'm limited to just, two positions on a D line or just three. No, I can play everywhere. I'm the type of guy that they can depend on. I'm an every down guy. I feel like I can rush the passer. I can play the run, and I love taking the information. I'm a guy that loves to learn about it. I'm sorry, these flies,
you're fine. You're
but
good. You're good.
yeah, I'm just a guy that loves to learn about my position, the technique, stuff like that. So I'm really a guy that pays attention to technique and attention to detail.
This is a question, and you can take your time on this because it's kind of one of those random ones. But I always like to ask everyone to describe their game in one word. So if someone
Mhm.
was to ask you, or an NFL scout was to ask you, if you were to describe your game in one word, what would that word be and why?
Oh wow.
And you know who else had a problem with this at the Pro Bowl? So I
Who?
asked my guy Roquan Smith. I said, "Hey man," and he was like, "Wow, that's a good question." He's like,
Yeah,
"Wow," and he gave
it's
me a
just
negative
like
answer. So
I
you can
feel
think
like
about it. We'll come back to
um
it. We can think
uh,
about that.
I about to say I had one in my head. I was gonna say
Okay.
explosive,
Okay.
explosive. And I'm definitely I feel like I'm explosive, especially off the ball and stuff like that. So I feel like that'd be a good word for me. Explosive for sure,
Yeah, I think explosive sums up your game. I would also
for
say
sure.
it's very versatile. It's crazy how you're 290
Versatile.
and you can move in space. Like it's so like you're probably faster than me in a 40. Like, bro, like back in high school, I could probably run a 4.4, but I'm not so sure. Not today. Not today. Um,
Right.
I might run a little bit faster if you're chasing me, though.
No, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, especially if a guy that's bigger than me, I won't say I'll run, but if it's a guy bigger than me that's just chasing me to try and catch me, I'm definitely gonna pick it up another notch. Like you ain't catching me.
All right. So this is a very fun and casual thing. So the Super Bowl's coming up. Obviously, it's one of those things where it's look. I talked to some
Oh
NFL people
man.
around NFL circles, and people are saying. I spoke with one NFL exec. He said he just hopes that it's going to be a good game. Like he thinks
Yeah.
the Eagles are
Okay.
just going to dominate, and the reason that is it goes back to what you're doing, the trenches, right down in the
Yeah.
trenches.
100%.
So I'm going to ask you, and it's nothing. It's just for fun. Like if you were watching the football, or you're obviously going to watch the Super Bowl, but if you had to pick a team, who do you think is going to come out on top? Is it the Chiefs with Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, or and Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, or is it going to be the Eagles on both sides of the ball? They're just going to be playing bully ball all game long.
For me, I definitely want, I want the Eagles win. I guess you could say just because of Jalen Hurts. I feel like he's been very disrespected over the last, couple years. It's like going through college, he's very disrespected. So I kind of want them to win, but at the same time, the Chiefs are just the Chiefs. You can't really stop Patrick Mahomes. Like it's very hard to stop him. So it's kind of up in the air at this point. I definitely want it to be a good game. I definitely think it'll be a very close game. But it's all gonna come down to who can stop who the most. Because like the two options that are very explosive. So who knows?
Well, I tell you what, to me, I think games are won and teams are built from the inside out, not the outside in.
Right.
And so when you look at it from that dynamic, the Kansas City Chiefs have a really good offensive line. They have a really good high-powered offense backed up by a great offensive mind who's going to run the shooting ladder and some other crazy stuff as the game unfolds. You're going to see a lot of trick, or not a lot, but one or two trick plays in this game, maybe an onside kick. I don't know. The Eagles, though, you know what you're getting with the Eagles. Like they're just going to impose their will. They'll be like, I don't care. We're not going to do a lot of window shopping. We're just going to go mano, and we're going to see if you can beat them straight up.
Exactly.
I think the Eagles are going to win. Now watch me be wrong.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, I definitely feel like the Eagles have a very, very high chance of winning just because of the season they're having, and the weapons they do have, both on defense and offense. They got weapons on both sides, so it's really it's kind of up to the defense. I feel like it's all come down to the run game. Who can stop the run? Who can stop? Who can get to the quarterback the fastest? Because, like I said, like if you get the quarterbacks, moving out the pocket. And too comfortable, then it's definitely going to be bad news for both defenses. It's going to be a high-scoring game, so it's really all about like who can stop who.
Yeah, no, exactly. How's that going to play out? All right, so as you watch the NFL game, is there anyone in particular that you kind of mold your game after, that you look up to as you transition into the NFL?
I'm definitely looking at always JJ Watt. I've always looked at him constantly throughout the years. When he was early in his Houston Texans, I watched his highlight tapes, all his sacks, and I really, and Cameron Jordan. Cameron Jordan is definitely one of the guys from the Saints. He pass rush. He's this elite. I want like this is probably the two main guys, but at the same time, like. I watch so many other guys. I watch the guys. I watch big guy. I watch a 320-pound guy to see how they take on blocks. Like, I always try to gain an advantage on every position, so I watch everybody. Yeah, I try to learn off everybody for sure.
That's crazy. Cam Jordan's from the Bay Area. He went to Cal. He went to Berkeley. Okay. So I was watching him, because I was based out of the Bay Area. That guy, you're right. He's immovable, number one, but his pass rush moves are just like, I don't know. He's just so strong as not.
So fluent. I definitely want to be more, just very fluent in his pass rush. He's very aggressive with his moves. And as D lineman, you got to be very aggressive. So I see why they're, the best of the best at the position. So
it's good that you pointed out two players in two different schemes. One played in a 3-4 primarily as a 4-tech. The other one played in a 4-3. In a 4-3 base. So that was really, really interesting that you point out those two players in particular. So good stuff, man. This is a good interview. How are you liking this so far?
No, I definitely love it. Now I appreciate you having me. It's definitely, I'm definitely enjoying this. So for sure.
All right. So we're going to run a 2-minute drill with you, Dante, to wrap up this live stream. The 2-minute drill, it's a question of this or that. So you say the first thing that comes to mind. It's very fun, very casual. There's not going to be any like crazy questions that some people probably would ask you. So it's pretty much straightforward and to the point. So we're going to get to know Dante Stills in the 2-minute drill. And you just say the first thing that comes to your mind. And we're going to start. You let me know when you're ready and we'll start.
Yeah, I'm ready right now. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
All right. I like that, bro. I like that. All right. Here's getting to know Dante in the BEASTwriter 2-minute drill. Hot dogs or burgers?
Burgers.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like you can put more stuff on, burgers. You can put, lettuce and stuff like that. So it just tastes better. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like hot dogs too. But in this situation, definitely hamburgers.
All right. Do you prefer like okay? What's your favorite fast food joint or like hamburger joint?
Hamburger joint?
Do you have
Probably
one?
Five Guys. Five Guys.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've always loved Five Guys. Five Guys is really good.
Dude, if you were venturing out here, there's a Five Guys down the street. All right, lobster tail or crab?
Oh, lobster tails.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it gotta go for that. I mean, I really not like I eat seafood every once in a while, but if I do, I definitely want to have some crab legs for sure. Wait,
all right,
lobster legs.
Yeah, lobster's fire. All right, interceptions or fumble recoveries?
Oh wow, interceptions. Definitely interceptions.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a trick question because both result in a turnover.
Right.
So interceptions. I would go with interceptions too because I feel like that shows off your ball skills.
No, they do. Especially the D lineman getting a pick, that's very rare. So if a D line gives a pick, that's crazy to everybody. You're like, what? That's crazy.
Yep. And the funny thing about that is because like clogging up the passing window, you can create opportunities for others off tip drills and stuff. So that's cool at the line of scrimmage. All right, pancakes or waffles?
Oh, you're gonna do this? Definitely. I'm gonna have to say waffles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to say waffles. I like pancakes, but waffles definitely are top tier for sure.
So I'm a huge Bama fan, right? And I talked to Quentin Williams about this during the pre-draft visit that he had with the San Francisco 49ers over at Levi Stadium. We always joke around about this. We were talking about how the Niners took him out and dined him out at the IHOP, which no longer exists over by Levi Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, bro, why'd you go to IHOP? I said, because you love pancakes that much. He's like, bro, I love pancakes. So he chose, out of all the places he could have gone, he went down the street from Great American Parkway to the IHOP to get pancakes. And I was like, that's
great.
That's
the thing is,
crazy,
I don't blame them. The pancakes at IHOP are, so good. Like usually the one I get at IHOP, it's chocolate chip pancakes. So I like chocolate chip. So chocolate chip pancakes, crazy.
All right, I tell you what, if you ever go to Hawaii, you need to get the macadamia nut pancakes. You need to get that with the macadamians. Oh man, I'm telling you.
Okay.
I'm a waffle guy though too, like you. I'm on the same wavelength. I'm a waffle guy all the way through. All right. Cool. Here's another one. Netflix or Disney Plus?
Oh, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Disney Plus got everything. I mean, thing is like Netflix got a lot of stuff too, but I feel like it's the same stuff a lot. I feel like I can never get tired of Marvel. I'm sorry, this phone of Marvel and stuff like that. I can never get tired of that. And old movies I used to watch, can never get tired of that. So that definitely Disney Plus. Sure.
I was watching Mighty Ducks Game Changer. I'm old. I'm turning 40 this year. But
Mighty
I was watching.
Ducks, yes.
Okay,
yes.
So we can talk about Disney Plus all day. Did you watch Wakanda Forever that just came out?
Yeah. Wait, the new one. I haven't watched that one yet.
Ooh.
I have not. I have not.
Watch that.
I will.
Yeah. That's out right now. It just came out on February 1st, I think, or something like that. It came out last week.
I haven't seen that one or the new Avatar. I'm definitely falling. I'm falling behind. I know. I'm falling behind.
Okay. So you watched Game Changers, though. You know what Game Changers is? The Mighty Ducks. You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen The Big Shot?
Yes.
The other one? We like the same stuff.
I've seen that. I think it's like there's a lot of movies where like I probably just like I've seen, but I don't remember. But I feel like I've definitely seen that. I wouldn't say 100%, but it sounds familiar. For sure. No,
for sure, absolutely. That's that. Everyone that I ask that question, they always say Disney, Netflix, and I'm like, what? What's wrong with Disney Plus? I'm a Disney. I'm a Disney kid. I'm just like,
the Disney Plus, man. It just can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
All right. So Apple or Android? Do you have a preference?
Apple.
Yeah.
But I would say that there's one thing on I don't know if the new Galaxy or Samsung is like it's very high def. Like the camera is crazy. I saw a video of it. And I was like, the camera ain't like this on the iPhone.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, but overall, definitely Apple for sure.
No, I agree with you on that. But I like Apple because it's universal with all Apple products. And I think that's one of the things
Hmm.
that I like about it is because it's very user friendly. I don't know. Even though
Right.
you can't arrange stuff and do crazy things with it, it works. It works.
No, it definitely do.
Um, it's like the keep it simple, stupid method. Like the simpler it is, as long as it gets the job done, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
say like there's times where I've had this phone for a while. The phone before that I've had it for a year and a half, 2 years. Sometimes I had one for 3 years. Same one. Just as long as it works, I'm
yeah.
good.
All right, sweet or salty? So
Sweet.
do you like sweet?
Nah, nah.
Salty?
Definitely salty. So I mean, it's kind of both. Like but definitely salty though. I'll say that.
Okay, wait, hon. You kind of went back and forth there. So what about the saltiness foods do you like? Do you prefer? Are you like me? Like for me, I mean, I snack on chips a lot. I'm bad. I'm
Yeah,
bad, bro.
like
Like
I like chips. I
you
like
do
chips.
too.
I like Pringles. Pringles are
There you
good
go.
too. But at the same time, I do like like Reese's and like the chocolates and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I can go both ways for sure. But gosh, yeah, I'll definitely say salty stuff for sure, just because I eat more of that.
I know it's a tough one because I eat donuts all the time too. I'm bad, dude. I'm bad. Like no,
Man.
I'm bad. I'm bad, bro. You don't want to follow my diet, but like
Oh, the thing is, I feel like everybody has their times where they eat,
yeah,
donuts or something
yeah.
chocolate. So it's okay. I'm a lineman, so I feel like I can kind of I'll mix it in there a little bit.
No, the funny thing about that is I think sugar is good as long as you use it as fuel source for energy.
Right, for
Like
sure.
people
Yeah,
think sugar is bad, but it's only bad if you don't use it within like the proper window that you're supposed to use
right,
it in. So that's why
right.
nutrition plays a role. But no, I get what you're saying, man. Yeah, no, salty and sweet. It's like one of those things like, what? That's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Oh, are we talking about the food or talking about the holiday?
Oh, dang. That's a good one.
Because it's
Well,
kind of
okay, let's talk about the food for that holiday because that's tailored to you.
right. I'll say Thanksgiving for real, just because
Yeah,
I'm it's kind of I'm thankful for all my family and stuff like that. It's kind of you're giving thanks to everybody that's kind of helped you out in your life. I definitely like Christmas too, for sure, but Thanksgiving is definitely I feel like it. Like we're very all close. So
all right. Here's one for you: Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys or Aaron Donald from the Los Angeles Rams.
well, I'm gonna say Aaron Donald. Nothing wrong with Michael Parsons, elite player, but definitely Aaron Donald, definitely. I feel like he's the best defensive lineman ever played the game. A lot of people might not say that. There's a lot of great defensive linemen, but I feel like Aaron Donald is unstoppable. So
Yeah, he can be quadruple team and still make a sack. It's
yeah,
it's.
it's crazy. It's crazy, and he's just crazy strong. So
I think that's what separates him. Like you talk about old man strength or just like like superhuman. You want to talk about Marvel? That guy's like built like freaking Thor. He's like a Thor body with Thanos's freaking like arms. Iron Man
no, yeah,
strength.
he's huge, man. Like
The guy's just
he's
ridiculous.
yeah,
He's on
it's
a
crazy.
different
Like
planet. He's on
and
a
he's
different
quick, he's
planet.
fast. So like, it's kind of like I feel like he just has it all for defensive line for sure.
Yeah. Well, all right. That's going to wrap up the 2-minute drill. Dante, thank you so much for joining us
Of
and being
course,
part of the
man.
Dark Side of BEASTwriter family. Really appreciate it. I know there's a lot of NFL teams who would be happy to have you on their roster. And like I said, you
Appreciate
were
that.
my number one prospect leading up to the East-West Shrine game. And that's why I wanted to have you on, man. I was like, hey, man,
Man,
I need Dante on, bro.
man,
And
I
you said yes.
appreciate it, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's definitely, I'm definitely happy to be on this show, and I'm definitely that you invited me to be, on this. So I'm definitely, very forever thankful for sure.
Well, we'll be in touch and congratulations. And just for someone who doesn't know what you're about, you have a couple things lined up. We're not going to talk about NFL teams or anything like that, but you have the NFL Combine coming up
I
and
do.
your pro days coming up as well.
My per day is March 27th.
Okay.
Is later in March. So
Okay.
after the combine, I also have some few weeks to train and stuff like that. So it get better for per day.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dante. And you
Sir,
have a good day, my guy.
I
Appreciate you.
appreciate you. You too, man. Be safe.
All right. That was Dante Stills, everyone. Dante, good guy to get to know. I love Dante. He's been one of those guys that, like I said, like you just saw right now how humbled he is, how hungry he is for the NFL game. So we're gonna just go ahead and open this up, right? So I was gonna go ahead and end this live stream and then start somewhere else, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. We got my man D Menace. Thank you everyone for the super chat and super stickers. Kevin Lurker, thank you so much. Mahalo for the super chat and super sticker. On to Six Soldier, thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. Look, it's funny because I've been working hard behind the scenes. You guys are wondering when I was hopping on the live stream, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So let's go and kill two birds with one stone since we're already on. We're going to go ahead and talk about some things that I kind of want to get my chest off of, right? So what I'm talking about in general is what's going to happen with the quarterback situation, right? And someone was asking me like, what's going on? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Like, I honestly, like my opinion, what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers? It's like there's so many things we can talk about. So I was gonna do a separate live stream for this, but I figured, nah, man, let's just kill two birds with one stone. Since we're already on, right? Like I haven't been on in how long because I've been running a lot of game film. Like earlier today, me and Dante were talking about Mighty Ducks, but I was watching Game Changers and I was watching Coaches film, and then I was doing it. I mean, it's just a lot of like legwork goes into the analysis and formulating my opinions on not just like the Raiders or the Niners or Steelers or what Dolphins, what it could be. It's all 32 NFL teams. In order to do that, you're multiplying everything that one person does times 31, or times 32, I guess. So yeah, it's a lot of legwork, but I love it. I did get my own draft board. Thanks to you guys for all the super chats and super stickers. If you guys haven't seen that yet, well, I'm going to show you right now. So we got the official draft board right here. I call it the official draft board because that's what a lot of NFL teams use. Usually it's a lot bigger, but the brand is pretty. This is actually really heavy. But so right now we're working on my draft board here. You guys can kind of see, and if you guys want to know what's going to happen as it unfolds or before it happens, that's why you guys follow me, right? For my analysis and insight on how I see things playing out. Now watch it not play out. But no, draft, as you guys know, it's my favorite time of the year. And again, in order to formulate that analysis, you have to watch coaches' film, not just on the college prospects coming out, but their tendencies, their biases, who they send out, which scouts go where. And then no one's really going to give you the answer, right? So you're going to have to do it yourself. So again, I've been doing this since 2000, to be honest with you. Actually, 2000. That's when I first started it. And just kind of now I have, like I said, I go up against the best when forming my mock draft, right? And so like everyone from Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, Daniel Jeremiah, Bookie Brooks, Matt Miller now, who's now included in my ESPN mock predictions. I formulate my analysis based on who I feel is the best in forming that mock, and I beat them for 2 years running now. Finished no worse than third. So over the years, and that included Mike Mayock over the years. So very, very excited. And formulating the mock draft. And usually I'll put that up on the newsletter. Last year I did up on the newsletter, which is a subscription-based newsletter. Years prior to that, pre-COVID, I put it up on like Twitter for a thread for you guys to kind of follow. And it's just a fun thing. There's a lot of people that really like that stuff. So like I said, it's a lot of legwork going into it. But I want to go ahead and talk about some good things with that's going on. Dima says, great interview. Good luck with the draft, Dante. Yeah, Dante is a good guy. And I'm going to just get to some of your questions here as it unfolds. Kevin Lurker says, what is good, Beast? What is going on, Kevin? I haven't seen Kevin in a long time. But I'm glad that you're here because I am here. And it's mainly you haven't seen me or I haven't seen you is because I haven't done a live stream in a while. But yeah, no, it's a lot of good stuff. Robert Penn says, D-Mess, wish I could have met up with you in Vegas. I'm doing great. How about you? Robert Pena and D-Mess, y'all need to link up and hang out. I think that'd be cool. For all of us actually to kind of get together. But no, thank God for the YouTube live stream because we can all get together this way. In the meantime, But let's go ahead and talk about some things. I'm just going to get some banners up here. Like I said, I wasn't set on doing this, but I feel like we can kill two birds with one stone and just get this and pump this out of the way. Let's talk about the Aaron Rodgers situation, right? Aaron Rodgers to the Raiders. Is it happening, right? Like, is this happening? Is it really happening? Is there legs to it? Is it clickbait just because it's off season and people need clicks? What is the truth, and how likely is it when we talk about Aaron Rodgers to the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Like, I think that's something that everyone has been asking me about. Look, let's just go back and talk about it. And I'm doing this off the top of my head because I really don't know. So if my statistics are wrong on this, I apologize. I'm doing this off the top of my head. And I don't want anyone calling me out in hindsight saying, oh, well, you, it's like, nah, man, I'm doing that. Okay. Anyways, so who is Aaron Rodgers, right? Let's start there. When we talk about three parameters, when breaking down the evaluation versus evaluation, evaluation process, you have to know the parameters, why the move could potentially be made, who are the players or coaches involved, and what's the instant gratification versus long-term gains here. I think the third parameter is the most important here, right? When you talk about instant gratification versus long-term gains, because from a GM perspective, you have to actually weigh those things, the pros and cons of making that financial investment in a player who's maybe a bridge gap quarterback for 1 to 2 years. Because let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is going to last another 5-6 years. I don't think so. Another 3-4 years, maybe. That might be wishful thinking. So I think you're looking at maybe a 2 to 3 year window. Now, watch me be wrong and watch him outplay Tom Brady and play on for like 25 plus years. But no, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Who is he? Well, he's a 2005 first round pick, drafted number 20. And again, I'm doing that off the top of my head, number 24 overall. When looking at the financials of it, right, the instant gratification versus long-term gains, this upcoming season, if I'm not mistaken, again, I'm doing this off the top of my head, I can go back and run the numbers and put it down in the description box for you. But I think he's owed $59.5 million this year and then $49.3 million next year. So again, the financials of making this decision, if you were to trade for an Aaron Rodgers, GM Zay Ziegler, you have to look at the financials aspect of that. But then again, you look at what he has done over the course of his career since coming out in 2005 out of Cal, which we talked about Cal earlier with Cameron Jordan. So good school, by the way. Go Cal Bears. Bay Area rooted. All right. So he's a 4-time NFL MVP. That's just like 2 years removed. I believe he was the NFL MVP back in 2021. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are watching this. You guys can Wikipedia this. I think it's 2021. Doing this in my head. Yeah, I think it's 2021. He's a 5-time All-Pro. He also is a 4-time NFL quarterback passer rating leader. That was also in the same year that he won. I know that for a fact whenever he won that last MVP, which I believe was 2021. And he also is a two-time NFL touchdowns passing leader. And I believe that was 2020. I think that was COVID year that he led the NFL in passing touchdowns that year. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry if I get it wrong, but I think I'm on the right track. I don't know how I remember this stuff. It's just like when you do things enough, you get it. Anyways, so is it likely that Aaron Rodgers comes to the Las Vegas Raiders? Well, if they do that, I think they have to keep Stidham. And by the way, I want them to keep Stidham either way, whether Aaron Rodgers is here or not. I'm a huge fan of Jarrett Stidham, but I think you keep Stidham and then you trade for Rodgers if that's the scenario number one. Because now you have a bridge quarterback for the foreseeable future for the next 2 years. And then also Jarrett Stidham can learn from another Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers. What two quarterbacks to learn than from two Hall of Fame quarterbacks to kind of get up to speed on learning the nuances of the NFL game. Now, I think Jarrett Stidham's a great quarterback. Now, people are saying, oh, man, like he sucks. And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? He sucks. Like, I just don't get it. And I totally disagree, but I'm not going to harp on that. Jarrett Stidham, he's definitely a good quarterback. It's like, no, man, what are you talking about? Anyways, let's go ahead and peel back layers of the onion. It just irritates me that people say that he's a bad quarterback. It's like, what are you talking about? Anyways, let's peel back layers of the onion to really get to the core, as I always like to say, when formulating the analysis on why Aaron Rodgers potentially can come to the Las Vegas Raiders and why I think it makes sense, right? So we talk about the wide receiver Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers dynamic. That's something that, that we talked about for a very long time now, right? We talked about what it means for him to look. We talked about it on previous live streams, and I said this, and again, this analysis is just like something that I came up with myself because no one's going to give the answer. But think about it. If your best friend, if you played sports and you lose your best friend, and he's one of the reasons why you came to that team in the first place, which happened to me back in middle school or high school, you would want someone that was better to replace your best friend. Otherwise, you'd be even more upset because you're like, dude, like, I came here to win a Super Bowl and we kind of downgraded, right? Like we kind of downgraded from Derek Carr. So like what the heck? So that's why I think it's important. And I think Davante Adams has to say in that, yeah, he does want Aaron Rodgers. He went on record and said he wants Davante Adams. Davante Adams already went on record that he's saying that he wanted Aaron Rodgers, right? He goes, duh, that's my guy. He said it during the Pro Bowl. And then when he asked the 15 questions thing on Twitter, and someone asked, hey, what neighborhood is Aaron Rodgers going to? Tagged him. And then Tay says, mine. Duh. Like, it makes perfect sense. Now, there's some people who are saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers is too old. We should just draft a quarterback and go in that direction. I can get that dynamic because now you're making a cultural shift to have everyone on the same page as to what they're doing at number 7. But if it was me, and I know this sounds crazy, I think that if I were the Raiders, and again, my opinion doesn't mean anything anyways, but if I was the Raiders and playing armchair GM here, I would rather them trade for Aaron Rodgers. Get Aaron Rodgers here, trade for Aaron Rodgers. Now, if you have to give up number 7, you have to look at the dynamics of, again, here, my draft board that I have here. If you guys saw the earlier draft board, there's a reason why I made no pick for the Raiders at number 7, because I really truly believe they're going to trade for Aaron Rodgers. Now watch him not get traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the Packers are going to trade Aaron Rodgers. I think he's going to come ultimately to here in Las Vegas. I think Davante Adams is going to get his guy. Now, what's the asking price? What's the valuation versus evaluation process of making such a move? You can't just throw out random numbers in here or like, oh yeah, let's just trade blah, 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 and that's going to happen. No, we have to look at the analytics. The analytics tell us something, right? If you're going to predict the future, you have to delve into the past. I mean, this is something that I formulate over years and years and years. I have spreadsheets. I have all kinds of stuff, analytics going back. And so that's when people say, oh, well, back last year or 2 years ago, this GM gave up this much for this price. But you don't know what the valuation was behind the scenes in order for them to formulate the analysis and making such a move. What I mean by that is the compensation involved, and people go up to and talk about the stupid valuation chart. Let me tell you something about the valuation chart. It's just a barometer or a gauge, right? It's just a gauge. It's not the end all be all. Because look, if you have a strong conviction of a player, like let's say you believe that Tom Brady, who was drafted in the 6th round back in 2000, and you had a 3rd round grade on him, but you wanted to trade up in the 3rd round because you needed the extra round pick, and you wanted to go ahead and trade for a guy in the 3rd round that you otherwise could have had at number 6, right? Well, in hindsight, you'd be like, no, man, I'd give up the first pick overall for a guy like Tom Brady. But the valuation versus evaluation at that time was maybe a little bit different than it is today. So that's why I say the valuation chart doesn't do a lot of justice, because at the end of the day, if you as a GM or as a scouting department have a strong conviction of a player, you will give up whatever valuation you have on that player to go up and get that guy or trade back. Like, let's say they're drafting number 7. And let's say based on my draft board, how it currently falls, I have Will Anderson going number 1 to the Chicago Bears. That's a Ryan Poles move to make, right? Why? Because he built teams from the inside out, not the outside in. He also goes in the Brett Veach tree, and he coming from that tree, you all know what the Kansas City Chiefs have over there, right? Chris Jones, Frank Clark, the list goes on and on and on over the course of the years. So when you take that Carlos Dunlap, right? So no one talks about the highly priced free agent Carlos Dunlap that came from the Bengals and had a good year with the Seahawks, and now he's with the Chiefs, all right? So again, you have to know the dynamics of all 32. Look, what I'm trying to say here is this. Will Anderson, if you formulate your mock draft, Will Anderson to me, in a correct mock draft, people say Justin Fields, get out of the question. Justin Fields is not going anywhere. He's staying in Chicago. Now watch him not be in Chicago. Will Anderson is going number 1. Now at the number 2 pick right here, right? I'm just going to get this draft board. I don't know how much it means, but whatever. This draft board, it's heavy as hell. But no, number 2, when you look at number 2 and you look at what teams are doing, right? So number 2, who holds that pick? GM Nick Caserio. Nick Caserio comes to the New England Patriots. And again, the Bill Belichick tree, right? So again, formulating the best 5 that I talked about before training camp started. All these things play a role. All these freaking things play a role. All right. So GM Nick Caserio, what did he do last year? He went out and got his Derek Stingley of boundary of a cornerback, right? And so when he went and I said it should have been Sauce Gardner, but anyways, so that's who they got. And so Nick Caserio, again, a very smart GM, like what Nick Caserio is doing. Who does he have there as his head coach? Well, it's D'Amico Ryans, right? D'Amico Ryans is now his head coach, coming from the San Francisco 49ers, former DC of the 49ers. So again, what do you think they're going to do at number 2? Well, D'Amico Ryans needs a quarterback, but are they necessarily going to reach for need, diminishing the value of pick at 2 if they otherwise don't see a quarterback that's a top 3 quarterback? Now, I'm not afraid to put my analysis on the line, and not because I'm a Roll Tide fan, but the question was asked by one of my friends who I work with with the Raiders, another beat writer. He's like, "Hey man, what are your thoughts? Like, who do you think is the best quarterback?" I say, I don't know. I'm not as high on these quarterbacks as maybe some other teams. But I do think that Bryce Young should be drafted as the number 1 quarterback in this draft class over CJ Stroud. I say that, and I watch CJ Stroud having a Hall of Fame career and Bryce Young not. Well, the reason I say that is because the knock on Bryce Young, and I've been covering him since his freshman year, is his weight, right? I think you look at the 180-pound frame or whatever he's listed at, 185, 190, whatever the case may be. You can bulk up a guy without diminishing any of that skill talent that brings him the competitive advantage of what he does best as a dual threat quarterback. When you look at some of these other quarterbacks, you can kind of bulk them up, but if they do that, they'll be losing something, whether it's lateral agility, manipulation in the pocket, whatever the case may be. That's why I think Bryce Young, to me, is the head and shoulder above favorite, and then coming from Bama, right? I mean, nothing against Ohio State. They're just as good. But I just think that says a lot, like Bama guy, who's the Bama guy right now? Jalen Hurts is in the Super Bowl. I think Bryce Young can have that type of career that Jalen Hurts is on. He's not gonna wow you with like Peyton Manning's stat line or anything like that. But I mean, man, if you can have a guy like a Jalen Hurts at pick number 2 as your franchise quarterback, I think you go out and make that play. So I like Bryce Young. And again, my mock draft is not based on what I would do. It's based on how I see it actually playing out based on my analytics and grading system, and formulating, college film and so forth. So I think Bryce Young is going to be number 2. Number 3, I have Jalen Carter. You guys got to remember, the new GM of the Arizona Cardinals comes from the New England Patriots as well. So again, he likes building teams from the inside out, not the outside in. When you take that into account, I think Jalen Carter is going to be one of those guys and say, hey, look, I think Jalen Carter is going to be the guy at number 3 because he just brings so much to the table. Now, he won't wow you with like double-digit sacks or anything, but the pressure rate that he has in creating opportunities for others and the mob stat that I have, which is making others better, I think that can't go unnoticed, right? And I think not everything shows up in the box score. That's why I say grade the snap, not the box scores, because when you do that, you're going to have a stronger analysis on some of these player evaluations. Too many times over, I think is a lazy way of doing it, is people go to the freaking, I hate this, they just go to the box score and be like, oh, this guy had 3.5 sacks today. I was like, okay, well, yeah. Well, if you had an Aaron Donald who's creating all the pressure up front and occupying all the double and triple teams, of course this guy's going to win his one-on-one battles. He better win his one-on-one battles or he shouldn't be in the NFL. Plain and simple. So again, grade the snap, not the box score. Jalen Carter, there's no reason for him to go outside the top 5. Now, again, people can have a strong conviction about that and say, well, he's not going to be a double-digit sack artist. What are the odds that defensive lineman drafted in the top 5 over the course of the last few years or 2 decades or whatever the case may be? I have the analytics on it. Doesn't happen very often. All right, it doesn't happen very often. It's tried and true. It doesn't happen very often. But when it does happen, it usually turns out okay. So Jalen Carter right now I have going at number 3. Number 4, I have the Colts, GM Chris Ballard. He usually goes after a free agent quarterback in free agency. I don't think he's going to do that this year because 3-time ain't the charm, man. I think he's going to go after a guy like CJ Stroud. He'll take the second best quarterback off the board. And get this. Now, I haven't said this yet, but GM Chris Ballard, if he sees a player he likes, he might move up and get the quarterback of his choice. So he could make a play for number 1. I think that's something that I can see happening because of the fact that, again, Ryan Poles coming from the Brett Veach tree with Kansas City Chiefs, he needs draft capital. All right. When you look at the team's needs and look at this draft, and every draft has its own identity. Again, there's not 32 first-round graded players on my draft board. I'm just letting you know. Every year, there's 32 picks are made, but not, or actually 31 this year. There's 31 picks made this year. Not all 31 of these players are graded as first-round talents, but you have to make the pick because they're on the board. So, if it was me, again, I think the Chicago Bears might trade down, and maybe the Chris Ballard might trade up and get the quarterback of his choice and get Bryce Young. But as the draft board currently stands, because we're not going to make any trades omitted, I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to go after CJ Stroud as the board currently stands without free agency taking place. Obviously, that pro player personnel side has to come into play as well. But number 5, I have the Seahawks going after Tyree Wilson. All right. Tyree Wilson is a guy now who I think is a perfect fit for the Seattle Seahawks. And that's just a move that I can see John Schneider making. I think that Pete Carroll, John Schneider go after a guy like Tyree Wilson to kind of solidify the pass rushing edge in the first round. So, again, you guys got to remember, you look at the draft flexibility that they have because they have multiple first round picks from the Russell Wilson deal. You really have to take that into account and say, hey, look, all right, ideally, what is the risk reward of looking at the tiers when you compare the vertical board versus the horizontal board and then marrying the two, right? And so when you do that, you can have a stronger conviction on what teams may be doing. And again, you delve into the analytics and then you talk to people around the NFL. You can really formulate your analysis based on how you see fit. So that's how I see it playing out right now without, again, the pro personnel. They have to run the free agency grades on an evaluation process and seeing who actually fits their scheme and at what asking price. And again, based on age and all that other things, although that plays a role as well. So you're going to have to figure out that side. But right now I have Tyree Wilson going to the Seattle Seahawks at number 5. Number 6, when you look at this, number 6, the Detroit Lions, they can go in a variety of different ways. The running back valuation of a player is not what it was in years past, and because it's a pass happy NFL now. So although I think Bijan Robinson is going to be a top 5 prospect in any given draft. I mean, the guy is a beast, but I don't think he's going to go in the top 5, right? Again, it's just based on how I see the draft unfolding in real time. When doing that, I think that the Detroit Lions would say, okay, well, because they have multiple first round picks as well, because they pick at 18th and they also pick here at number 6, right before the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to go after a guy by the name of Devin Witherspoon. There's a lot of hype on Joey Porter, who is also a legacy. His father obviously paid for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the years, but I think Devin Witherspoon's a little bit better. I just like his ball skills a little bit more. I like his change of direction skills. I like how he has a strong cadence in his back pedal, very fluid coming in and out of his breaks and breaking on football. So I really like Devin Witherspoon a little bit more. That's not to say Joey Porter's not a good cornerback. He's probably number 2 on my board right now. I say probably because I haven't actually ran the full spectrum of grades on him yet. But right now, it's what it's trending that way. So that's why I like Devin Witherspoon out of the Fighting Illini there. And then you look at the Las Vegas Raiders, right? So they're going to pick at number 7. Again, this is where evaluation come into play. Look, but for me to formulate the analysis on what the Raiders are going to do at this pick, how much legwork just went into those previous picks ahead of you? Right. And so, again, that's why I take this very serious. All right. That's at number 7. This is why I see it playing out. I think the Raiders are ultimately going to go out and trade number 7 because who's going to be out there? Paris Johnson Jr. and Peter Skoronski. Those are 2 players that I can actually see playing out and being drafted by GM Dave Ziegler. All right. And there's no secret to this, right? Like if you watch film, you would know, or especially not just on the Raiders, but around the league. Like, look, the Raiders need some offensive line help. Okay, that's just plain and simple. Like I like Alex Bars, I like Colton Miller, I like all these guys, right? Jermaine Newman, great guys, great people. But to say that they can't get better, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, especially at that trenches talk. So I think the Raiders, when you're looking at it and formulating the mock draft, as I'm doing right now, you're going to have your choice of Paris Johnson Jr. Now, the question remains to be seen. Are they going to go after Aaron Rodgers and trade this pick away along with a second-round pick, maybe a Darren Waller, because Darren Waller was in trade talks with the Green Bay Packers, or his camp was in talks with the Green Bay Packers, or whatever the case may be, and Green Bay Packers were in talks with trading for Darren Waller. Ultimately, it didn't pan out. Why did it not pan out? It didn't pan out because the financials weren't aligned, right? The financials weren't aligned. But at the end of the day, if you think that the Raiders are not strongly considering a guy like Aaron Rodgers, let's go back and again, peel back layers of the onion. Here's another layer of the onion to get to the core, right? They created a passing game coordinator position for Scott Turner, right? Scott Turner is a legacy. I mean, we talk about legacies in the NFL here. We just had Dante Stills here. His father, Gary, played in the NFL, right? NFL veteran, longtime NFL veteran. Now we talk about Joey Porter, and now we're talking about Scott Turner. I mean, again, you need to know these things, right? So Scott Turner comes from the North Turner, technically, tree, because North Turner during the days in the early 90s, I was there, he would just dominate the San Francisco 49ers, who had one of the best defenses in the NFL in the early 90s with Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Alvin Harper, Jay Novacek, right? And so obviously Troy Aikman there, quarterback out of UCLA. When you have that, and then, again, a strong, stable offensive line, you have guys like Nate Newton there, right? You have guys like Larry Allen there, Stepnowski, the center, Mark Stepnowski, whatever, the center there. This is going back and back and back. They had Flozell Adams over the course of the years, if I'm not mistaken. Now I remember. Now we're going way back, but they had a strong offensive line, right? Kevin Gogan, right? They had Kevin Gogan, who also played for I believe the Raiders, and he also played for the Niners as well. But no, you had those guys there. Really nasty, really mean. You ain't like no one liked Kevin Gogan unless he was on your team. But who is Scott Turner, and why was he brought in with the Las Vegas Raiders? Well, he comes from the Carolina Panthers, right? Let me just look up this because I don't know this part of it. I didn't memorize this part, but he comes from let me look. Yeah, he comes from it's all small print. He comes from the Panthers as a quality control back in 2011, 2012 under Ron Rivera. So a lot of the stuff stems from Ron Rivera. So I guess you can say he kind of comes from the Ron Rivera tree. He was the Browns wide receiver coach in 2013. He was the Vikings quarterback coach from 2014 to 2016. Again, you have to know little things about this, right? You can tell little things just based on analytics here. Which I'm not going to go into detail. Panthers quarterback coach from 2018 to 2019, teaming back with Ron Rivera. And he was the Commanders most recently as the team's offensive coordinator from 2020 and 2022. All right. So what does he bring to the table? Why have a passing game coordinator position opening up this year around, right? Well, I think Coach McDaniels looked at this and said, hey, look, Scott Turner is a great offensive mind, right? And the reason why I say that is because, again, watching film, right? What kind of offense does he operate from? He runs that Air Coryell offense, right? The air raid offense, which you can make an argument, by the way. And again, I would know this because I covered the 49ers, is it kind of stems from the West Coast offense a little bit, right? A little bit, right? There's little tendencies there. And then you see now some shape or form of the Air Coryell offense is inserted in, I would say, the majority of these NFL teams. All right. Just like the West Coast offense. And you kind of put your own twist on that, right? So it's a timing based offense. Well, the West Coast offense is what? Timing based, right? Quick slant, short passing game, using sometimes an H-back would be Tom Rathman, Roger Craig, whatever the case may be, right? So you kind of see the same things that happened with Norv Turner, who ran the Air Coryell offense with the Dallas Cowboys, with Jay Novacek over the years. And what's his name? Eric Bjornsson. Is that his name? Eric Bjornsson? Something like that. Daryl Johnston, right? Moose, right? We all remember that. So again, it's a timing-based offense. It's predicated on applying pressure on the D to cover the entire length of the field. And I think when you do that on all three levels, that actually gets your skill players out in space. When you can ask your offense, or forcing the defense, I should say, to cover all three levels of the field, spread out wide, now you're playing a game of chess, not checkers, because now you're matched up, pre-snap leveraged, one-on-one, or whatever the case may be, and scheming things up because you don't know what the rules of engagement are on the back end on how they're going to do and run these routes. So again, when you apply pressure on the defense to cover the whole length of the field, now you're making it harder for the defense to kind of leverage their splits and kind of take advantage of what they want to do, because you're basically stuck on an island sometimes out in space. So it's predicated on a number of different things, the Air Coryell offense, right? So it's predicated on getting the, I would say the running back or tight end in motion, right? Pre-snap motion. Why? Why do you want to get guys in pre-snap motion? And again, you have to go to the game film and watch it. A lot of times coordinators will get their wide receivers run a jet motion or orbit motion, or the case may be, because they want to see and give the quarterback a pre-snap look if it's man coverage. If that guy follows him, odds are, again, not on every play, because it could be rules of engagement applied to if he's on the strong side or the weak side, whatever the case may be. But more times than not, that would show and dictate whether it's man coverage or not. If it's man coverage, I mean, that can play in your favor, right? But if it's a zone coverage, that can also play in your favor in the Air Coryell offense, because what happens now? You have two wide receivers, right? And again, there's some mixed match here, but if you have two wide receivers and they run a deep dig or a skinny post or a comeback or a speed out or a shallow cross, that's going to put stress on the back end there. And when you do that, that opens up what? That opens up the intermediate, sometimes a short area passing game. And many times, if you have a running back like Josh Jacobs, who can get out in space and win his 1-1 battles off wheel routes and some of these cookie cutter routes that they like to run. I'm just saying, so it kind of makes sense. But in order to run that type of scheme, you need a quarterback who can run that type of system, which makes case in point Aaron Rodgers, right? So again, people who talk about like Coach McDaniels, there's an argument saying that Coach McDaniels' offensive scheme was too predictable. You know, it was run, run, pass, run, run, pass. But if you look around, and I was telling someone this, if you learn the dynamics of the other 31 other NFL teams, a lot of them do the same thing: run, run, pass, run, run, pass. So it's funny in hindsight. And again, I said this already. I would take it to the grave that, you know, GM Dave Ziegler, Coach McDaniels, top 5 GM, top 5 coach. They're fine. They're perfect for the job. And someone was like, "Oh, you're the only one that's saying that." Yeah, I don't care. I'll be the only one that says it. I think GM Dave Ziegler and I think head coach Josh McDaniels is doing a phenomenal job. I think they're doing the best job. I think the right man for the job. So, like I said, I'll take it to the grave. Whatever happens, happens. Whatever. I don't care. But you got to look at it, right? So a lot of offenses are labeled as predictable, but they consistently rank among the tops in the league, right? And so, like, again, when you look at North Turner, same thing said was North Turner. Oh man, but Cowboys consistently ranked among the top in the league. So again, when it comes down to Derek Carr, right? How does that affect Derek Carr now that we're peeling back layers of the onion with the air courial offense and Davante Adams wanting Aaron Rodgers, and how is it going to fit? What's the valuation versus evaluation of making such a trade? Well, again, you're going to have to give up to gain something. You have to give up something. So I think it's going to be a first round pick, number 7 overall, the Raiders' second round pick, and maybe a Darren Waller, right? Or a Hunter for whatever the case may be. I don't know. But those guys were rumored to be on trade blocks. So like I'm throwing out them or someone else. Like it could be anyone else. I'm not saying it's going to be them. But I think in return, Brian Gutekunst, the Green Bay Packers GM, wants something in return where he can kind of leverage what he's getting in return. Because let's face it, draft picks are no guarantee, man. Draft picks are no guarantee, and we all know that. So with the February 15th deadline coming for Derek Carr's contract, because we all know that that's kind of like the 2-minute drill. The Raiders are out of timeouts, and Derek Carr is kind of like on the outside looking in, right? Why give, from a GM perspective, why give up assets? And this is talking about Derek Carr. Why would a team give up assets for a player who is likely eligible to be an unrestricted free agent? Because the Raiders aren't going to pay that. So that's why I think Carr is out. I think hypothetically Rodgers is not hypothetically. I'm just saying it. I think Rodgers is going to come here. Rodgers is in. What's the valuation versus evaluation of making such a move? What's the instant gratification versus long-term gains? Well, you're giving up another first and second for the second time of the year, but you're getting Aaron Rodgers. So again, if you were to tell me you're giving up 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks in consecutive years for a Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams duo, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Because again, draft picks are no guarantee. Too often people put a stock on a draft pick and think that's the end all be all. But again, every draft has its own identity. What if it's top heavy? What if it's bottom or top heavy or bottom heavy in a positional need that you really don't have a need for, right? So it's like kind of go hand in hand. You kind of go hand in hand. That's how I see it. So again, I think Green Bay wipes hands clean of Aaron Rodgers. They can absorb the Waller contract now, so they can take on that deal. So again, from that perspective, I think it makes financial sense. But how that's going to play out, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. That's just how I see it playing out. Now watch me be wrong. Jesse Cardenas says, now we need to consider the draft pick the Saints have in the first round that could possibly be given to the Green Bay Packers for. There you go. And we still keep our number 7 pick. I don't know. I think this is crazy. Now watch. It's just interesting how this plays out. And again, if I was GM Mickey Loomis, right, from the New Orleans Saints, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, if I'm really thinking about getting Derek Carr, I'm going to play the waiting game. Because the Raiders aren't going to be doing Derek Carr any favors. So, like, I'm just going to say, hey, if we get Derek Carr for nothing, I'm not going to give up my draft capital. But if we can get him to team up with Chris Olave for the foreseeable future, let's do that, right? I'm not bringing up Michael Thomas because he's kind of been up and down ever since having that NFL Offensive Player of the Year season. But I just love talking football. Here we are. I mean, we talk about all the GMs right now. All right. You can go down the list right now and talk about all the GMs around the league. It's good stuff. But again, in order for my mock draft, you have to know the dynamics of the other 31. And it's just not around draft day. You have to do this year round. Like it's not something you can take a break from. Like, because there's always something moving, right? There's always moving parts. Like Steve Wilkes, who just talked about it, with my guy earlier. They got Steve Wilkes, right? Who's the 49ers new defensive coordinator, right? Because D'Amico Ryans playing game musical chairs became the Houston Texans head coach. And now Chris Kosarek doesn't want to, well, he's staying in San Francisco, right? He told teams he's staying in San Francisco. So even though he's a D-line coach, maybe he wanted to stay and he loved the Bay Area weather. I don't know. He didn't want to become a DC or the case may be, but that's where we stand. I don't know. Let's see here. And then again, when you look at it for what it really is, you have to understand the dynamics. Tian Jiang says Raiders let go 3 scouts earlier. They did. They let go 3 scouts earlier. Tweeted out earlier. It was Jack Kilmore, who was a scouting coordinator. It was Zach Crockett, longtime Zach Crockett, played for the Raiders and also became a scout shortly thereafter. And then they also got rid of Bo Schembechler. So all those 3 guys are out. As to who replaces them, I don't know. And I don't know where they're going to come from. Tweeted that out. It could be in-house. It could be somewhere else. It could be, it's funny. More times than not, though. And again, I'm just throwing it out there just because it's a guess. You look at all the scouting departments, right? Like, for instance, like Justin Chabot from the San Francisco 49ers, right? He was a senior national scout. And then who else was there? Tariq, I forgot his last name. Anyways, they all kind of hire from within the organization. Like, that's just how GMs usually build it out, right? Like, they hire from within, and then they keep it within. So, like, I don't know how that's going to play out here. That's just a guess. I mean, okay, so here's another GM, right? Like, so like, look at Monty Austinfort, right? Who came from the Titans. He was a Titans vice president, pro player director of personnel, whatever the case may be, coming from the Titans, now the GM of the Arizona Cardinals. Watch what he does. Watch who he brings in. It's just common sense to look at the past in order to delve into the future, and then you can formulate your analysis there. So it's interesting, right? Anytime a new GM comes into a position, I think you want to, like, for me, like, if I was to have a startup company, I would want my guys. Like, I wouldn't want random guys. Like, I would want my own guys. So whether that's internally or externally, that's just the best one for the job. Rodgers says trade value, cars trade. Rodgers trade value, cars trade value. Yeah. So anyways, let's see what else we got here going on. Javi Ramirez says, been waiting for you to get on live. Let's go. Thank you so much, Javi. I appreciate it. And again, let's love talking football, man. If you guys missed my live stream with Dante Stills earlier, great guy, great humble person. He loves football. Like, this guy loves football. He would be a good fit for the Raiders. There's a few other guys who I saw at the Shrine Bowl that would be good fits for the Raiders. And again, in order for me to formulate that analysis, you have to watch coaches film. I was talking to Terry Fontenot with the Atlanta Falcons over at the Shrine Bowl. We were kind of talking for a little bit. He kind of taught me the draft process and how it all works. But I was like, man, some of these guys you just don't have film on. You open up a folder, it's like one game. It's like, man, so then you have to find out, like, okay, I need more film. Like, where do I go to get this film? And I've been doing this for years, and it's like, the bigger school prospects is easy. Like, that's fine. You can get the whole freaking offense versus defense. I mean, that's not like Alabama, easy, right? LSU, easy, right? Like, the Power 5 is easy, right? But when you go into like the Big Sky, like, I want to know the Big Sky guy, or I want to know the Hofstra kid, who, as you know, Hofstra no longer exists. Sorry, Marquise Colston and Giovanni Carmazzi, that no longer exists. That school is non-existent. Dave Fiore, was Dave Fiore? I think Dave Fiore came out of Hofstra too. But no, you look at those guys. Who else came out of Hofstra? I know Zach Bronson for the 49ers came out of McNeese State. Did Lance Schulters come out of Hofstra? I want to say Lance Schulters came out of Hofstra too. Anyways, he also played for the Falcons and the Niners and some of these other teams. But yeah, man, it's good. I like watching film. I wouldn't mind watching D2 film, D3. I watch it all. Like, you have to, and then it's fun for me because, like, it's like, okay, you think you know your stuff, you think you're cool, bro, then watch the film and then project how they're going to do in real time. And I love calling myself out. I love it. When I get wrong, I'm like, dude, I said, like, for instance, I said Lester Cotton was going to be one of the top interior guards for the Las Vegas Raiders. I said it. I can't say I didn't say it. I said it. And I called myself. I was like, I was wrong. Horrible. I'll do better next time. I thought Lester Cotton was going to be a good player, and he wasn't. Well, at least not for the Raiders. So there you have it. I get it wrong. Can't get it right all the time, but more times than not, pretty much spot on. But I like calling myself when I do get it wrong. Either way, get it right, get it wrong. I like pointing that out because again, if you're gonna follow me, don't you want to follow someone who gets it right more than they get it wrong? I don't know. I think I'd be wasting your time 1 hour and 20 minutes if I got it wrong more times than all the things that I just pointed out here. Now, again, it's hard to do a mock. I keep on telling this. It's hard to do a mock draft right now without free agency taking place first. It's like, no, man. If the Colts want to trade for Derek Carr, right, after going after guys like Carson Wentz and Phillip Rivers, right, in free agency, whatever the case may be, or through trade, whatever the case may be, don't you think that it would be dumb to formulate a final mock draft now? Like, it's dumb because what if they went after Derek Carr? And it's like, okay, well, you had TJ Stroud at number 4, but it's like, yeah, that was pre Derek Carr trade. Like, and let's be honest, let's be real about this. If the Colts GM Chris Ballard trades up to number 1, it ain't gonna be for a Will Anderson. You're not gonna trade up from 4 to 1 for a guy like Will Anderson unless he's like a Lawrence Taylor. I'm just keeping it 100. It's going to be for a quarterback. So, like, the draft position also plays a role in draft flexibility as well, because, again, that's going to manipulate how the dominoes fall. Like, for instance, like, if you get down to the teens, like, for instance, I tweeted this and spoke about this on my last live stream. What's GM Dave Ziegler going to do at number 7? Well, if it's not going to go after and use that draft capital on a quarterback like a Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady at the time, then I think his best bet would be trading out of number 7. And then what teams behind there would likely make that trade? Just don't throw freaking teams out of nowhere. Like, no, there's some analytics involved to that. And also you have to know people too and kind of figure out the mock drafts. Like, you have to kind of like do that, but no one's going to give you the answer. You have to formulate your own analysis and do the legwork. Like, no one's going to give you the freaking answer. Like, no. But it takes a lot of time to do that. And I did that on my last live stream. Like I said, these teams, boom, boom, boom. Now watch it not be those teams. It'll be a random team. But no, this is, again, this is why I like doing this. Like, you have to know. Like, you have to understand, go and watch film, do the analytics side of it. And then, again, Eric Wright called me a very analytical guy. Like, yes, I am an analytical guy. And I'm proud of it. I like analytics, but it's not the end-all be-all. Like, people say, oh, it's 4th and 1, they should go for it. It's like, well, not really, man. In every game has its own identity, just like every draft has its own identity. So if you're doing bad and you can't move the ball an inch, I'm not going to go for it for 4th and 1. If you can't even go in, what makes you think you can go 1 yard if you can't even move 2 inches on 4th and inches throughout the game and you got stopped 2 times? Robert Penn says, who you got winning the Super Bowl, Beast? This is now I am going to do prop bets. I will say this. I think the Eagles are going to win. Now, watch me be wrong and watch Pat. Look, the Eagles are just too strong. I mean, you look at their roster from top down. I think games are won in the trenches. I'm a firm believer. If I was to open up a team myself and start a franchise, I'd want to build the team from the inside out, not the outside in. So I wouldn't necessarily go after a wide receiver, a tight end, outside of quarterback, obviously, but on the offensive side of the football, I would actually solidify that blindside left tackle, offensive tackle position first and foremost. So if I was running an expansion team, that's my number one goal, because no quarterback can have success without a strong offensive line. No running back can have success without offensive linemen blowing holes up front and hitting that second level, getting them out in space. So again, they go ahead, and no wide receiver can endure success if he can't get separation off the top of the stem, because the quarterback's looking at the sky 2 seconds in or 1.5 seconds in, whatever the case may be, whatever your time clock is in your quarterback's head. So all starts up front. Same thing on defense side of the football. I don't want a strong boundary quarterback. I'd rather have an edge rusher or somebody who can apply the pressure to create that time clock in the quarterback's head. I'm the one applying the pressure, not the other way around. So again, whether by a three-tech defensive tackle from the interior, all these reasons, which is why I believe the Eagles are ultimately going to win. You have Jordan Mailata, you have Lane Johnson. All these guys are homegrown talented players, right? Jason Kelsey, homegrown talent. You look at the landscape, right, around how Howie Roseman builds his team. And again, it's no secret, right? You look at the Eagles, you look at the Steelers who are at the Shrine Bowl, right? You know who they're looking at. Like, even before, if you do enough film, you already know. Because look, when the scouts go and to the Shrine Bowl and things like that, that's just icing on the cake to confirm what they already did throughout the film, right? For all that film studies, all those reports, everything in between, on the road, okay, so you have to talk to this person, you have to talk to that person, and format that. And I mean, come on, like, it's not stupid. Like their draft boards are pretty much set right now. It's just, like this guy came in with character issues, so maybe we have to talk to this guy, like it's kind of like how it goes, right? Let's bring him for a pre-draft visit. Or you can throw smoke and be like, let's bring in for a pre-draft visit and throw smoke for some of these guys because, we kind of hide our interest in them, or they don't even talk to them at all. But different GMs have 10 different biases on that. And then they'll throw you off one year and then the next. So again, ain't nobody can give the answer. A lot of legwork goes into it. I mean, I remember, who's the GM of the Buffalo Bills? That's not Whaley, not Doug Whaley. Who was it? Anyways, he was biased toward SEC talent. And it was like, dude, like I can call this out like right away. And I was right. Like I think I hit on 8 of his 9 like draft picks in the first round. But there's different things though. Then he'll throw you off one year and draft someone else. So anyways, yeah. Javier Ramirez said, but yeah, I have the Eagles winning because again, you look at who they have, right? Who they have, Jordan Davis, right? For instance, like he's been injured, I get it, but yeah, Brandon Graham there. You have so many Fletcher Cox there. I mean, I'm not just name dropping players. Again, you grade the film. Like these guys get after it, like, and not only when I say get after it, people talk about it as they're a finesse team, right? Oh, well, they're a finesse team. No, man, like. They play bully ball. Like they welcome contact. Like, nah, man, like this team is going to be one of those guys. And that's not taking away anything from the Kansas City Chiefs. They have they traded for Orlando Brown Jr., who wanted to get paid as a blindside left tackle. And then the Chiefs had this franchise tag him. And GM Eric DeCosta says, no, man, you're not a franchise left tackle because we have Ronnie Stanley and he fractured his ankle. I think it was against the Pittsburgh Steelers, if I was running the grades correctly. I think that was 2 years ago. And then OBJ balled out of control. And now you want to get blindside left tackle money, not right tackle money. And even though GM Eric DeCosta has affinity for Oklahoma products, obviously we know what happened with Marquise Hollywood Brown. Shit, both those guys out, both Oklahoma Big 12 products. How do I know this? I'm telling you, this is what I do. Now OBJ gets a franchise tag, and now he's in another Super Bowl. How is this going to play out? I don't know. Or the Chiefs are in another Super Bowl. But you have guys like Creed Humphrey. You have guys like Joe Tooney, right? Creed Humphrey, you guys know what I said in real time? I said, man, Creed Humphrey was a steal. I said that's in real time. I was like, man, he had a first round grade. Landon Dickerson, the flip side of that. Man, what I said in real time. Roll Tide roll. And they got him and Devonta Smith. Come on, man. Are you for real? Like what? Howie Roseman be killing it. And then got my boy Nakobe Dean. Come on now. And Jordan Davis. That's it. Let's just get all Alabama SEC products here. Now, just because you come out of SEC don't mean you're going to pan out. But I'm just saying, there's still things you can find out. I mean, New England Patriots did it. Bill Belichick did it. Sonia Michelle, right? Isaiah Wynn. Who else did they draft out of Georgia? I don't know. But I think the Eagles are going to win, yes. Now watch the Chiefs win. Watch the Chiefs win. And then Travis Kelce says, yeah, I know that BEASTwriter is an idiot. You got to fight for your right to party. He's going to say that. He's going to sing that to me. And I'd be terrified. But no, Travis Kelce, I mean, you can never, it's not going to be an easy. I would never say it's going to be like, oh, it's going to be a blowout. I want it to be a close. I think it's going to be a close game. I do. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. But this game can easily get out of hand too. Like time of possession plays a role. And again, who do they have? The Eagles have Miles Sanders. Like that guy is just, everyone talks about AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, but Miles Sanders is one of those guys. Again, you guys gotta remember he played with Saquon Barkley in Penn State, and so I was talking to scouts. I remember talking to scouts about both those running backs. I was like, man, both these guys are gonna be good. And like, who's that? I was like, Miles Sanders and Saquon Barkley. And like, oh, and then Saquon Barkley, by the way, was not even it was like 2 years out from him even being eligible. I think it was his like freshman year. I was like, hey, this Saquon, he's good, man. I think he's gonna be like an all pro. Then he got hurt when he came in the league, but he was now he bounced back. Saquon Barkley, but Miles Sanders, I don't know. I just think he's something else. Kenneth Gainwell, right? Bart Scott, right? Again, you watch how people undervalue prospects. And, I talk about this with my great friend, Randy Mueller, former GM, NFL GM of the year back in 2000 with the Saints. We talk about, anyone can name drop players on a roster. Like anybody can do that. Like cool story, bro. But what about having good depth? Like having good depth with little to no drop off in production. As former GM Kevin Colbert, now it's Omar Khan with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and obviously head coach Mike Tomlin, one of the Hall of Fame coach, no doubt about it. What he always says is the standard is the standard. So if the standard is the standard, you also have to have good depth to kind of live up to the hype of that standard. For instance, Devin Bush, right? Inside linebacker was a problem for the Steelers over the course of many years. And I say many, I mean 2 to 3, 4 years, whatever. That's why they traded up from the Denver Broncos from 20 to 10 to go out and get Devin Bush, because obviously they wanted a inside linebacker who can cover in space. That's why Mark Barron wasn't cutting it. No offense, roll tide roll. Converted safety to now linebacker to now I think he's out of the league. I don't know. But he was drafted, number 7 overall by the Tampa Bay Bucks, or who was he drafted? I think it was the Tampa Bay Bucks, something like that. He wasn't cutting it, and he just wasn't cutting it, so they had to do something. Now you bring in and roll in Robert Spillane, a good, hard-hitting, run-stuffing inside linebacker, but then again, kind of doesn't do so hot in coverage, but he's very smart. He's like a special teams type of a mold, but I like Robert Spillane, but just wasn't cutting it, right? And so, who else did they try to bring in? Now I'm drawing a blank. They brought in. I want to say they brought in the Cleveland Browns guy. Drawing a blank. Anyways, it'll come back to me. But no, yeah. Now look at them, right? Like they had to get Miles Jack. What did he do at UCLA? Well, if you run the film back, what he did at UCLA before being drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, he played running back. He played special teams. He played linebacker. The guy can do it all. So, but he's kind of been hot and cold too. I don't know. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what the Steelers are doing. But anyways, getting back to it, Javier Ramirez asked, do you think trading up for Stroud is the best option if we can't land Rodgers? Or do you think we should sign Jarrett Stidham and get a Hooker Richardson to develop? I would rather go the latter than the former. Now watch them do the former. I just think right now, my best bet would be to get as many darts on the board as possible. Like I'm the whole Bill Walsh philosophy. I shouldn't say that, because if there's a guy who I think is a Hall of Fame player, I'm going to go up and give up the farm for that Hall of Fame player. But if the price is right, obviously. But the way I see it unfolding is I think if for some reason they don't get Aaron Rodgers and let's say he goes somewhere else or stays in Green Bay, right? And they hold a number 7 pick, I would, well, based on how the draft board currently falls and based on how it currently stands without obviously the pro player personnel side stepping into play, I would rather them trade back. And I talked about this on my previous live stream. So again, that's why it's very important to keep up with my live streams, because I cover every basis. I like to cover every basis. And I think when you do that, you're doing yourself a solid, because if you go back and look at what teams actually like to wheel and deal, we know GM Chris Ballard likes to wheel and deal. We know Les Snead from the LA Rams, formerly St. Louis Rams, likes to wheel and deal with first round picks. He likes to go top heavy, right? He's like, yeah, man, I don't need a first round pick. I just want to win a Super Bowl. So I'll give up the farm. And then some GMs are like, nah, man, we have to build through the draft, because why? Gone are the days with the Eddie DeBartolo back with the San Francisco 49ers who was just buying players. Literally, he bought players. Oh, Ricky Jackson, you want to play for us? Cool, man. You won't be starting, but you can play for us, number 57. Oh, Deion Sanders, come on down. You want a Super Bowl? We'll get you that Super Bowl for $1.2 million or whatever it is for 1 year. Because I want to win a Super Bowl. Oh, Tim McDonald? Let's just get you from the Phoenix Cardinals, formerly the Arizona it was the Phoenix Cardinals before there's Arizona Cardinals. Let's get Tim McDonald. He'll be our strong side safety. Oh, we already have Merton Hanks. We got Eric Davis. Oh, but we need linebackers now. Let's go after guys like Ken Norton Jr. from the Dallas Cowboys. Let's just kill 2 birds with 1 stone from a division rival and get over the hump. Let's go after a guy by the name of Gary Plummer. Let's do that. We have Lee Woodall. And that draft in 1994, was it, when they had Bryant Young, William Floyd? Man, that was a huge, crazy. And they already had Ricky Waters. High-stepping Ricky Waters. They already got Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Ed McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's dad. What else do you need? Brent Jones is already there. Santa Clara, Bay Area rooted. They already had the offensive line, Jesse Sapolo, right? They had Jesse Sapolo, who else? Bart Oates, who they got from the New York Giants. And the Niners do well getting and stealing Giants offensive linemen over the course of the years. Again, I'm an analytical guy. You look at guys like Ron Stone. Who else was there? Scott Gregg. Guys, remember Scott Gregg? Scott Gregg. Yeah. A lot of players. A lot of players. This is I just love football. I don't know. Kevin Lucas says, so horizontally, you have those offensive linemen rated higher than any defensive lineman at 7. No, this is based on my mock draft. So it's based on how I see the draft actually unfolding, not my big board or what I like to call my beast board. My beast board would be separate. And I think that's very important, right? Again, this draft board that I'm formulating is based on the vertical board and the horizontal board. So when you kind of mirror the two, that's what GMs kind of have this discussion, right? Like, okay, there's a cluster of players, and we talk about cluster of players, and you can hear this term often, right? We talk about the cluster of players who may or may not be available when our time is on the clock. Well, in order to formulate that cluster of players, you're not only making the decision on who likely will be there, but you have to cross-check that with your horizontal board, because at the end of the day, there's different tiers. Just like when you play fantasy football, there's different tiers, right? So is it better to get a tier 2 offensive tackle at this pick, knowing that this offensive tackle draft class is weaker than in years past? Or should we go top heavy at the cornerback position because we know that's limited supply, high demand, because there's only a handful of cornerbacks that we feel are worthy that can play in the scheme that we're trying to accomplish? So should we just draft this quarterback now and maybe get a tier 3 offensive tackle who otherwise would have been taken in tier 2, but because he dropped a little bit because the team's trading up, diminished the value of the pick, with whether it be a quarterback, whether it be a wide receiver, or based on needs? It happens every single year. Then we're going to go ahead and go that route. And so that's why I think it's important to not only, when you're doing this and talking about what teams are likely going to do, I don't throw out smoke. Like, I don't just throw out like things for fun, for clickbait. Like, I never do that. Like, I'm not one to do that. What I say comes from hours of game film study and, again, evaluation process. And I'm not right at 100% of the time. Like, no one is. But when we talk about formulating mock drafts and formulating my big board, again, it goes based on film study. It goes also not only on film, but you have to see how this guy fits into the team's culture identity. Look, if your team's culture identity is a guy who loves the game of football, like Dante Stills, right? Loves football, eats football, breathes football, everything, right? He's passionate about the game of football. You can be coached up different things too. So in order to play the reverse psychology game, you're going to have to know what questions to ask in order to formulate the analysis that you're trying to get, because you're going to have to decipher it. It's just like a defensive lineman sorting through the trash before making a play behind the line of scrimmage. You know, your eyes may be looking at the ball carrier, but at the end of the day, you have to sift through the trash. That's why in the NFL Combine, they have them hit the bags on the ground, right? By keeping your eyes up, staying square, right? Why? Because you have to understand to multitask and have the peripherals to understand the different dynamics of what the other 31 other NFL teams are doing. I don't know. So I love this stuff. I love football. I love college draft. I love this. This is what I do. I love it. But again, in this particular draft, I love the offensive lineman. I love is a strong word. I like the offensive lineman coming out. I like the defensive line. There's a lot of talent here. There's a huge talent pool to pull from. No pun intended. But it's not as top heavy as in years past. Like when I look at the analytics, if I'm going to pull it up, which I can right now, which I probably should. And again, I did a lot of this off the top of my head, but now that we're kind of in the meat and potatoes of it, let's just go ahead and talk about it, right? Let's talk about the analytics side, right? And I love analytics. Like I said, Eric Wright from the former San Francisco 49ers, you guys know, cornerback, calls me the analytical guy. I believe in analytics. Now, it's not the end all be all. Like I said, if you're playing a game of football, and like the Super Bowl, if the Kansas City Chiefs can't win on 4th and 2 and 4th and 1, then they tried it already 2 times, and they're trying to go the distance because they couldn't get it down on 4th and inches 3-4 times prior. I'm not going to go for it on 4th and, well, obviously down the distance play a role and where they're at, but more times than not, I'm going to punt it. Like, I'm not going to play that game, man. It's just like, nah, man, you win some, you lose some. It's just like when you're playing the game of basketball. If there's a 95% free throw shooter coming into the game, but yet he's 1 for 7 in that game, if you're a good coach, you're going to say, foul that guy in crunch time situations, because if we're behind, odds are, let's play that odds in that particular game. Let's not play the odds over the course of the entire season because he's hot in those other games. This game, he's off. He's off his game. Something not right. So let's get him on the free throw line and on the charity stripe. I'm just saying. And I've done it before and it worked. More than one time, actually, now that I think about it. Again, analytics play a role, but it's not the end-all, be-all. That's why you have to go back to that. No, you don't. Javi says, take Miles Sanders rushing prop over what you want. The funny thing is I haven't seen the prop bets yet, but I will look at that. And it's funny because prop bets are fun, but I usually don't follow what I say on the prop bets because I don't do so hot on them prop bets. So whatever I say, do the opposite of what I'm saying. I don't do so hot on the prop. I'm just letting you know. I don't do. Look, the prop bets on the first player to score a touchdown this year, I am horrible on that. Horrible. It's fun. It's fun. The odds are not in your favor, so that's why the odds are actually the odds are in your favor because it'd be like 25 to whatever the case may be, whatever that number is. But or I don't know. I'm just like craps. I'd rather play the field 7-1, whatever the case may be. I don't know. But I'm not good with those first player to score a touchdown. Like, what's the coin toss going to be? Heads or tails? Like, man, it ain't 50-50 with me. It's more like a 0% like failure rate. Like, nah, I ain't doing it. I am not doing it. You're probably better than me. Kevin says, I know Ron Stone's son, Jerry. Oh, Jerry. So Valley Christian. You don't know about that live. You know about that live. Valley Christian, right? Didn't Jerry go to Valley Christian? I remember when I was talking to Stoney, we used to work out at the same gym together, and we used to talk and catch up and stuff. And he's told me some stories in the past, which I'm not going to talk about. I mean, that's between me and him. But he was telling me how some stories. So one story I can share. So when I told him, how'd you like playing for Mooch? He's like, dude, I loved it. I loved Mooch. Like, I love Mooch. I like the team. I like the direction they were going in. And, he said his best years were coming and playing for San Francisco. I said, how was it like playing and blocking for guys like not Frank Gore, but Garrison Hurst and having Fred Beasley back there. If you guys don't know who Fred Beasley is, it's obviously it's the fullback position. He played fullback, but he was one of the best in the game. He's like, man, those guys were fun to block for because you never knew where they were going. He's like, they would just truck people and they'd get so many yards. And before you know it, they were in front of me, not behind me. I was like, yeah, that's pretty much sets the tone, right? So that's funny. Yeah, Stoney. That's funny how you know Stoney. Stoney's a good guy, man. Always a pleasure talking to Stoney over the course of the years. Ron Stone. All right, so we're going to go ahead and answer some of your questions. If you'd like to, we could probably take this Raiders quarterback Aaron Rodgers thing. We're done with that. If you guys want to support, please do so. You guys can send me a super chat or a super sticker, and I can answer any question you may have in regards to Super Bowl, draft, everything in between. Herman says, I would like some help on D up the middle. Yeah, so you need a defensive tackle. So Dante Stills, this is how the Raiders go out and get Dante Stills. Like Dante Stills clocked in at 290. Let me tell you something. Clocked in at 290, but the guy moves like he's 265. All right, I'm not joking about this, right? Rarely will I say this about a player, but we all know how he's not scheme dependent. He's scheme diverse. So he can play in a 3-4 front. He can play in a 4-3 base. The techniques he can play, we talked about it. He can play the 1, the 2-eye, the 3, the 4 technique. He can also line up in the 2-point stance. I think he's very good at that. And being an edge setter on the strong side of the formation, covering up the tight end. I can see him being that guy, chipping the tight end off the line of scrimmage before going into his pass rush. I can see this type of a guy. This guy is going to be one of those guys. We're going to look back this time next year and be like, the Raiders should have drafted him. The Raiders should have drafted him. Now, in what round? I don't know. Right now, I would say maybe because I like Dante Stills. I don't know. I would say, the Niners could use him too. Look, Niners, Eagles, every team can use this guy because it doesn't matter. When you go back and talk to people, right, and just evaluate the game film, it don't matter what kind of scheme. He's scheme dependent. Normally, you look at a guy like, let's say, Leonard Floyd. All right. Leonard Floyd coming out of Georgia, since we're on Georgia prospects, right? And obviously Ryan Pace drafted him coming out of Georgia, and he was the Bears GM, drafted number 7 overall. Coming out, I already knew what they were getting. I already knew that he was going to be a 3-4 outside linebacker who wasn't strong enough to hold the point of attack, but can be an edge rusher, right? I think we all see that. You can get that too on the 4-3 defensive end as well, but I saw more of a 3-4 type of guy in a 2-point stance than a 3-point stance. Leonard Floyd to me was hit with body analysis, trying to bulk him up, right, to get to a certain weight without compromising any of that length, any of that size, any of that speed. Certain players can do that. Certain players cannot. So you can, again, this is my realm here. Now that we're talking, football and fitness, that's what we do in the DOB. That's why you see that logo with a barbell and everything in between. When I see a guy like Dante Stills who can move out in space at 290, I mean, you're looking at a guy, sky's the limit, right? If we talk about, and everyone talks about this, if you're playing a game of checkers when it's a game of chess, you're going to lose. It's going to be checkmate all day, every day. So my goal as a GM is to see who I can bring to the table, who adds versatility, who I talked with at Dante Stills, but then also can be my chess piece, right? Who can be my queen on the chessboard, right? My queen in terms of doing multiple different things, right? We also need to know, I want more of those people, right, on my team, because now I don't have to dissect the playbook and saying, hey, look, on this specific play, this is what this guy can't do. So if we're going to play a gap replace because we know he can't set a strong edge, we're going to have someone else in there to kind of fill in that gap because he can't hold the point of attack. But if you have a Dante Stills, hey, man, he could do both. He can chip the tight end, he can hold the point of attack, and he can also make plays in the backfield, pinning his earbacks at the quarterback all in the same play. Why not get that guy? Well, I tell you, it's not as easy as it seems, because there's also people internally who probably have a strong conviction of another player. Like, nah, man, like if we're looking at the horizontal board, we like this offense. We like Peter Skoronski more than we like a guy. Well, obviously that's not a 1A, 1B, but let's say Peter Skoronski. Let's say, okay, so we're talking about Will Donald, right? My guy Onto Soldiers talking about Will Donald, quarterback fits in McDonald's system. Perfect. So let's talk about a guy, now I mean McDonald's, which is funny. I was watching, what was it on Netflix? Some fast food McDonald's thing. But anyways, let's talk about Will Donald for a little bit. Okay, so like let's say we're comparing edge rusher and offensive tackle, and they're at pick number 7 if they hold that pick. Okay, well, again, you have to look at the dynamics of what other teams are doing behind you when you're on the clock next, and you have to formulate your mock draft based on rounds 7th pick up until your next pick. And on top of that, you have to have another, well, I like to have it. Maybe teams don't have it. I like to have a separate board. I have plan A option, plan B option, and plan C option, because again, there's certain teams that you have to account for based on your mock draft. If you do the legwork and you're good, you're going to figure out which GMs are going to pull the trigger, move up in that tail end of the first round, based on the asking price of what these GMs like to do based on who is in their scouting department. And that's going to switch up the domino effect. So when teams do that, you always run an account for that. But then I moved to plan B. Okay, boom. I knew this was going to, I had a feeling these 2 teams or these 3 teams, we're going to do that. So that leaves this player down. Now our horizontal board is looking favorable because they drafted players that we otherwise wouldn't need. Like they drafted a running back. They went after Bijan Robinson, whatever the case may be, right? Because let's face it, if you're the Detroit Lions and you have 2 first-round picks, I can see Bijan Robinson going to the Detroit Lions. But if there's a team that also needs a running back, right? Not saying like the Pittsburgh Steelers or anything because they have Najee Harris there. But like, let's say, for instance, let me just pull up the draft board here. I like talking draft. Let's say, for instance, right? Let's say that the Baltimore Ravens, they have J.K. Dobbins out of The Ohio State University. Like him. Liked him coming out. But let's say the Baltimore Ravens and GM Eric DeCosta, we know he likes to draft BPA. Why? Because he comes with the Ozzie Newsome tree. And my opinion, I think Eric DeCosta does a tremendous job. I think the Baltimore Ravens are top 5 in selecting players at the top of the draft. In fact, overall, I like the picks that they make. But when you talk about what GM Eric DeCosta likes to do, he likes to go BPA. But if he has a need, and you saw him do it, right? He got Kyle Hamilton, and he also got who did he get last year? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. He got 2 first-round picks and got 2 first-round talents that he felt, right? And so, like, let me look back. Who did he draft? I remember he got Kyle Hamilton, and he also got someone else. I got to figure out who that was. Tyler Linderbaum, out of Iowa University, right? So anytime you get those types of guys on your team, you're going to be solid, man. And so I think I can see the same thing playing out. I think, look, if you can get the best running back in the draft, and you can trade up and only have to give up a little capital and only have to move up from number 22 to, like, let's say number 18, right after the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because, again, you look at a division rival like that, sometimes they'll just kind of do you dirty just to do you dirty and draft that player because they know that you have a need for the other player. That's a stupid way of drafting, but I've seen that happen before. Because a luxury today could be a necessity tomorrow. But when you look at it from that perspective, I think I can see that happening. I can see maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know they don't really like trading with each other, but they did it with Chris Wormley. You guys remember Chris Wormley came from the Baltimore Ravens to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Again, you got to do your legwork on this, man. People would say, oh, teams within the division. No, nah, man, it happens. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Case in point, Chris Wormley most recently. So, again, the Seahawks did it with the Niners until in the first round to draft two, Reuben Foster, right? So you look at the draft analytics and they tell you something. They paint a picture. And more importantly than that, the same GMs are in place. So it's not like it's a different regime or scouting department coming into play. Come on, let's talk. Let's talk football. But to get back to your point, I just think this draft is I think it's loaded with talent. I mean, Osiris Torrance, the offensive guard out of Florida, I think he's a good player. Now there's things that he can work on, obviously, just like every draft prospect, but I like him. So yeah, it's going to be interesting how this draft unfolds. I'm excited. I'm excited for the free agency because at the end of the day, it's what it's all about. But yeah, if you guys are watching this, there's 16 of you guys watching this, smash the like button, give this video a thumbs up. Tell me what you guys want to know. Ask me any questions you may have regarding the draft, and we'll get started on that. But yeah, there's a lot of different things when it comes to the Super Bowl, when it comes to player evaluations and all that in between. And like I said, I don't get it right 100% of the time, but no one does. I just want to give a shout out before hopping off this live stream. We've been on for an hour and 51 minutes. There's 21 of you guys watching, but if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to stay on. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap this show up, watch more game film, and then formulate my big board because we talked about a lot of different topics. You had Dante Stills on here. If you guys missed that, go ahead and replay this. And for anyone that wants to know more about Dante Stills, getting to know the person behind the helmet or underneath the helmet, wherever the case may be, you guys can go ahead and do that. Dante Stills is a guy who I think would be a good fit for the Las Vegas Raiders. There's a few other prospects who I think would be good for the Las Vegas Raiders. Nehemiah Shelton is another guy. Why I say Trotter? Nehemiah Shelton from San Jose State. That's my guy. I know the Atlanta Falcons are really high on him. I know that for a fact. So again, and anybody can tell you things, but you're gonna have to sift through the smoke, and no one can give the answer. But when you talk about different prospects, it's kind of like all of these teams are high on the players. Like for instance, like who's another guy? Okay, like Trey Dean, the MVP of the Shrine Bowl, right? Like he's another guy that everyone's high on, right? Why? Because you see the NFL traits. I post all those videos up for you guys so you guys can kind of see this guy has NFL traits. Like there's no false steps in his back pedal. He has a strong cadence in his back pedal. He stays square at the line of scrimmage. He's not one of those guys that has happy feet, right? He knows where the ball is going, and he has great instincts to make plays on the football. Reads the quarterback eyes, right? Things like this. Like all these things play a role in what Trey Dean does. And so I really like what Trey Dean brings to the table from a single high safety standpoint. And, some people can label him as a strong safety because he's a hard hitter. And that's what you need in today's NFL. So the versatility factor that we talked with Dante Stills earlier, you're seeing it, right? Because what you normally as a defensive back, when you have those instincts on the back end, what can you also do? You can play the role of special teams. So now you're looking at it when you formulate your mock draft and the valuation versus evaluation process. Say, hey, look, I like Trey Dean a little bit more, and maybe we can get him in the third or fourth round because he can also play special teams with no drop off in production. So if we have to get rid of someone that we currently have on the roster for a player who's cheaper because he comes on a rookie deal, and we have years on that contract that's non-negotiable because it's a rookie deal, let's go ahead and get that guy because he adds more value to the position, which brings in turn good depth. I don't know. Truth Riser, my guy Truth Riser says mahalo. What's going on, Truth? I haven't seen you in a while, man. How you been, bro? Truth Riser has been on here for a while. He says, thoughts on Niners new team. Look, I've been getting text messages on this. I will say this. I will say Steve Wilkes, again, 4-3 guy, right? Again, anytime you want to look for a DC, you want to see how big their ego is in terms of like whether they're going to keep the scheme or turn the page for a new scheme. We all seen We all seen bad things happen when you don't have the personnel and you're trying to run a 34 base and try to convert some of these 4-3 defensive ends who otherwise could be 4-3-3 techniques into 3-4 outside linebackers. I'm not going to say any names. I'm just saying I've seen it. I called it out, say they don't have the personnel to run this scheme, and they're hitting these guys with body analysis that otherwise will not work in 1 year's time. You can't ask a 295-pound lineman to cut down to 265. And yes, there is a number that some of these GMs and some of these coaches put on a player. So you have to be exactly this number. That's why they have weigh-ins, literally. But the weigh-in is not necessarily the end-all be-all, and I'll tell you why. I keep on telling people, again, this is my thing. This is my realm now, is it's funny when you put a number on the player, like you have to be 265 or 260, because at the end of the day, it's all based on lean body mass, right? It's not the BMI, the body mass, and it's that to me is a different story. Ha ha ha. I don't believe in that. But look, you have to look at the body fat percentage. For me, that's more important than anything else. Is the body fat percentage, right? And I think when you try to tell people to bulk up or you hit them with body now, you can't do it. It's like, no, man, like, what are you talking about? Is this your realm? No. Stop talking about it. Oh, he's too small. Like, people call me small. Well, I'm not small. I'm short, but I'm not small. I'm only 5'5". I'm short. I'm vertically challenged. I am. I'm probably one of the shortest people you probably know. Put it out there. But I'm not small. I'm short. Like, if you saw me, I don't think you would be, you wouldn't think I was small. Like, Darren Waller's I had lunch with him up in the press. He's like, man, he's like, you're a pretty big guy. Because he asked me what I was doing. I said, man, I just lifting weights, watching film, same thing that I tell you guys. And he's like, yeah, I can tell. He's like, you're not a small guy. I said, well, people call me small. He's like, well, they don't know. You ain't small. You're short, but you're not small. So definitely not the smallest guy, but definitely short. I would say I'm probably the shortest guy. On to Six Soldier says, Beast Dream Draft for the Raiders. I like this. What's my Beast Dream Draft for the Raiders? Is to get Aaron Rodgers. That's my dream draft. Let's get Aaron Rodgers and call it a day. Now, will it happen? Wishful thinking, as Devontae Adams would say, but you never know. Look, as a good GM, you want to leave no stone unturned, right? Leave no stone left unturned. And what I mean by that is you have to do your due diligence. These are often terms that we often use all the time, me included. Leave no stone unturned, do your due diligence, yada, yada, yada. But some don't do that. So if I was looking at it, and again, this is probably the conversations, the Raiders are having right now. It's not a secret. Like it. Like, the quarterback situation is a problem. But as someone told me, you look at case in point, Jim Trotter, right, from NFL Network, my good friend, mentor, right? How many of the top quarterbacks that get drafted every year actually pan out? We talked about this last year in my pre-draft analysis and on my Pick Six live streams with Jim Trotter when he was on the show. He actually brought it out. So that's why I'm just in awe, because like the analytics will tell you more times than not, these quarterbacks, especially Alabama quarterbacks. I don't know what it is, man, with Alabama, but hey, we got Mac Jones. He's doing okay, right? I love Mac Jones. I like Mac Jones a lot, by the way. I don't know why people are not high on Mac Jones. Oh yeah, he's not. It's like, dude, this guy is smart, bro. Like, from a quarterback perspective, I think that's number one for me. And any player is like, outside of having passion for the game and having an unquestioned work ethic, I think that's already like givens. Like, you're not going to be on my team if you don't have a passion for the game and you're not serious about the football game. Like, if I have to babysit you to watch 4 hours of game film like Kyler Murray, you ain't going to be on my team. Sorry, Steve Keim, who's no longer there. But I'm just saying, look, if I have to babysit you to watch film study, to do something you should be doing anyways on your own time, like, for instance, for bodybuilding, if my coach was telling me and gave me a program to work out 7 days a week and I only work out 2 days a week, well, that's on me. And he wouldn't take me on anyways, because he'd be like, man, no, you don't have the drive, you don't have the dedication, and you don't have the discipline. Those are the 3 Ds that I always talk about in bodybuilding or in the game of life. If you're not dedicated, if you're not disciplined, if you're not determined, nah, man, this ain't it for you, man. Like, the NFL game ain't for you. Like, so again, it goes back to culture identity. I want people who have a high football IQ, can understand scheme, can understand watching film work, and then understanding tendencies when watching the film and evaluating the film, and then understanding the why behind what other teams are doing. Right? If you can understand the why behind what other teams are doing, you're in a good space, because now you're not understanding your thing. The thing that I had a problem with, and some of you guys that played the game, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, or the case may be, you guys understand the dynamics that the smarter the player you are, the easier the game comes to you, because you're not so much reading and reacting, you're just reacting. And that's a huge, huge, huge advantage, right? For instance, you don't have to be the fastest player. You don't have to run a 4.540, 4.340, 4.240. You can run a 4.6, 4.740. Why? Because if you're very smart at watching film and knowing down and distance based on formations and who's out there based on personnel groupings before the snap is made, and you do that homework, you can kind of pre-snap your leverage how you see fit, and that will buy you those extra precious tenths of a second in order for you to make a play sideline to sideline. Let's talk football. Let's talk football. All right. Truth Rider says, love the BWF. Will always support you, brother. You're a real one. Thank you so much, Truth Rider. I appreciate it. You're a real one too, man. I'm glad. I missed having you on the live streams, bro. I remember we talking about live streams during COVID. Remember that, man? That's how I got to know you. It was good times. What do you think of Trey Lance, though? Or what do you think of Brock Purdy? What do you think of Brock Purdy, man? I talked to a lot of people over in San Francisco, and no, they like him a lot. So, in truth, what happens to Trey Lance? Does he get traded? What I tell you about Trey Lance, though, man, actually, it was I'd say he was a year away from being away when he got drafted. He was a year away from being away. Now look at him. Now, granted, he got injured, so I'm not going to hold that against him. But I think this upcoming year will be the year that actually, I can't say that. Maybe 2 years? I don't know. Or maybe no years. I don't know, because he's not going to be. I don't know. If I was GM John Lynch, I would try to trade Trey Lance and because you gave up 3 first-round draft picks for a player that you otherwise. I said, what did I tell you guys in real time? I said, watch, it's not going to look good. Now, Brock Purdy, like him. Like his swagger, a little bit cocky, but I like it. I like his confidence level. I like Brock Purdy a lot. I think he's your future. Jalen Hurts. Hurts is a stud. Yes, he is. Hurts is a stud. Absolutely. Paul, my man JP. See, we got all different types of fans up here in the DOB. JP Edward de Dios, Arizona Cardinals fan. You got Monty Austin for it. What do you think about the GM, though? I just want to know. I think he's a good GM. I think he's going to be a great GM. But coming from the Bill Belichick tree, I like it. I like it. If it was me, I would get anyone from the Bill. Well, more times than not, I would get anyone from the Bill Belichick. I don't care. That's a winning culture over there. Bring him over here. Will Anderson or Jalen Carter? This is a no-brainer for me. It's not me being biased. I like Will Anderson a little bit more than Jalen Carter. I do. I like Will Anderson. I think he brings a little bit more to the table. I think with Jalen Carter, and again, I spoke with Zeus White about this, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders earlier in the year, and I asked for his what his thoughts are going up against Jalen Carter up in practice compared to Jordan Davis. And he says, man, Jordan Davis is a space eater, man. Like, that guy just does not move as a movable object. But he said, Jalen Carter, man, that's he a dog, bro. Like, that guy can do a lot of different things too. So, yeah, I mean, and he went up against him in practice. So I mean, honestly, as good as Jalen Carter is, I still would give the nod to Will Anderson. I just think he brings a little bit more to the table in terms of, for me, it comes down to pass rush. Like, look, I'm not talking about sack numbers. I'm talking about disruption from the edge. And then he can play in a 4-3 and a 3-4 too as well. Jalen Carter could too, but where would you line him up as? Would you line him up as a 0 tech and a 3-4? If that's the case, then you wouldn't draft him in the top 5. If you're like the Baltimore Ravens or the Pittsburgh Steelers or one of these other teams that run a 34 base like the Arizona Cardinals. But if you're a 4-3 guy, like, would you put him out as a 3 technique? I mean, obviously that could be that's a pretty big 3 technique, but yeah, if it works and you can split that guard center exchange, and yeah, I absolutely. But I like Will Anderson a little bit more. I think from my scouting perspective and my evaluation of grading the player, when I formulate my analysis. Now, I'm not a scout. I'm not trying to pretend I'm a scout because I'm not. But you guys all know how that goes, right? And so when running the grades, that's pretty much scouting. That's evaluating a player and watching film. And so I think Will Anderson to me brings a little bit more to the table than a guy like Jalen Carter. Now, that's a tough one. It's not as easy to say that because, now that I'm replaying games from my head, not just from last year, but the year prior. If you go back in my beast receipts, what did I say about Jalen Carter? I mean, you had guys like my guy Nakobe Dean, right, coming out. You had guys like Quay Walker coming out. You had guys like Darian Kendrick coming out. You had guys, a lot of NFL talent coming out of that draft class. Jordan Davis, of course, Trayvon Walker. Last year, when I was running those grades on those Georgia prospects, I said there's one player that really stood out, and that was Jalen Carter. So, yeah, you can't go wrong with either one. But if it was me, I think Will Anderson's a little bit of a safer pick. Now, watch me be wrong. JP Edward Didio says, is your newsletter automatically renewable? That's a great question. It should be automatically renewable. But I'll double check with you, JP. In fact, we kind of got a phone call, man. I haven't talked to you all season long, man. But JP will tell you, I'm good with the Arizona Cardinals first round picks. Say it was going to be Zaven Collins. Say it was going to be Isaiah Simmons before that. I'm pretty good with the mock draft. Truth Rodgers says, I like Purdy, kid. Has the it factor, in my opinion. Let them compete in camp. We need as many young quarterbacks on rookie contracts as we can get. I'm betting on this franchise getting some key contributors to this draft. Yeah. And again, like I said, Dante Stills would be a good fit here in San Francisco, especially in that wide 9. Look, the Niners need a defensive tackle who can really, really clog up the middle, but then also generate interior push. And I think Dante Stills is a guy who's on a lot of NFL teams' radars. If I were to take a guess, I think the Niners, obviously all these teams, the fact is that he's scheme diverse. So you can name all 31 other NFL teams or 32 NFL teams can use him. You look at the Chicago Bears can definitely use him. The Texans can use them. The Cardinals, Colts, Seahawks, Lions, Raiders, Steelers, Ravens. All these guys can use a guy like Dante Stills. I think if I had to put a grade on Dante Stills on valuation versus evaluation, where he's going to get selected as opposed to where I think he should be selected based on valuation. I mean, I like Dante Stills a lot. I could see a second, third round grade on Dante Stills. Maybe now if he can put up what I think he's going to put up, the numbers at the combine, I mean, he might be one of those guys that people talk about. Let's just put it this way, calling it now. All right. That's why you guys follow me. I think he might have a great combine. He might be again, you gotta, take it with a grain of salt. Remember Dontari Poe came out and people were talking about him and like how he's going to be this great defensive tackle. He can do all these, hit 40 reps on the bench press or 35, whatever. And then, workout warrior number. Look, I don't care what you do in shorts and a t-shirt. That don't matter to me. I turn on the film. That's number one for me. But to formulate the analysis on why they run these drills, why they get these guys out in space and have, talking to these NFL people and having this interview process and going through that is because the more the more information you have, the more valuable and informed you are of making an educated decision, right? And so, because no one really knows, right? No, if everyone knew, then, everyone would keep the same job year in and year out. That's not how it works. But again, you get paid millions of dollars to make those decisions, those tough decisions. And ultimately it can be your downfall. For me, Dante Stills, and again, the beast receipts check out more times than not. That's why I say Dante Stills to me is one of those guys that I can see going. I mean, I could see him going in the late first, to be honest with you, but I see him going in the second, third round. I see a day 2 pick for Dante Stills in his cards. Now, if he puts up, like, let's say at the NFL Combine, let's say he racks up like 25, 30 reps on the bench press. I mean, honestly, he could put up more, but and he has like a, like let's say he has a 290 pounds. Let's say he has like a 30 something inch vertical, like a 32.5 inch vertical. Let's say he puts a broad jump. I mean, just go. When I look at the numbers of what Dante Stills reminds me of, we're going to talk about this in a little bit. But again, I go back to the 2000. Some people who are new to follow me think you really go back. Try me. I got the analytics all over. He reminds me a lot of a player who we used to call tweeners. Back in the day, now they're called edges. Before he was those players, like the Micah Parsons, who would be considered an edge player, the 4-3 defensive end, 3-4 outside linebacker, that type of a guy. I think the edge player today, back then, they were labeled tweeners. And a tweener to me is a cross between, a 4-3 defensive end or a 3-4 outside linebacker, an edge rusher. So to me, Dante Stills is a tweener. I'm excited to see what team actually takes a risk on them, because Dante Stills is going to be one heck of a player for somebody. And what I like about Dante Stills' game, and just getting to know him as a person and as a man outside of the game of football, is he's so humble and he's so hungry and he's so eager to learn, that I think that those are traits you can work with. And then you combine that with the talent that he puts on the field, and then not being scheme dependent, but being scheme diverse. I think that's things he can work with. Because let's be honest about this. When the Raiders drafted Alex Leatherwood, what did I say? I said it since go check it. Beast receipt checked out. I said he's better suited to guard. And I didn't even like that pick. I didn't like the Damon Arnett pick. I didn't like any of the first round picks outside of Josh Jacobs when he was drafted in the first round. Jonathan Abram. I admit I did like the Jonathan Abram pick as well. But outside of those picks, I really think Dante Stills is a guy to me that's going to have one of those games or one of those combines that people are going to look back at 290 something pounds and say, this guy can, if you wanted to put him out in space, which he doesn't do often. You're not going to see this guy dropping back in coverage. That's just not his thing. But he can play in a 34 base. He can play in a 4-3 front. So excited to see Dante Stills in action. I like I said, day 2, day 3 pick. And if the Raiders hold a second round pick, I think he's one of those cluster of players that you have to really key in on. There's also other guys in that second round coming out of the Shrine Bowl that I liked, like Nehemiah Shelton, right? Really like him, right? Sounds like State prospect. I like Trey Dean. I like him. That's another day 2 pick. Trey Dean is a guy, so he might be in that cluster with the Raiders as well, because let's be honest about it, they need safety help. My guy Duron Harmon, he's a free agent, right? So is he coming back? I don't know, right? Time will tell. But I hope he does. But at the end of the day, you have him back there. You have who else? I'm trying Trayvon Merrick, right? So he wasn't really a GM Dave Ziegler draft pick, but what are they gonna do with him? Or do you roll with a guy like Trey Dean, because he has the ball skills? I mean, he picked off 2 balls in practice, took one to the house, right, and just read the quarterback eyes on that play. So you can see the SEC talent converting when he goes against ssome of these smaller schooler prospects. It's just, it is what it is. He's another guy that can see in the Raiders uniform on day 2, day 3. Any of these guys, and again, the safety position, and I talked about this with other people around the league, is over the years, most recently, if you guys haven't heard my strong safety, free safety analysis with my guy, Randy Miller, you guys got to check that out. But we talked about the interchangeable safety. No longer do you want that traditional box safety who can just come up and run support, so where you can play a single high look in a cover 1 or a cover 3, right? You need a guy that can play in a cover 2, cover 4, if quarters coverage, sometimes, and be able to hold your ground, right? Or a cover 5, right? 2 deep, 5 underneath, right? And man coverage. So again, you have to be able to understand how to play your zone coverages, but then also to understand route concepts. Because if you're just looking at a guy like Jamal Adams, well, he's not going to be a traditional, he is your traditional box safety. He's not going to be, to ask him to go out and be in space, I'll be attacking that all day, every day. I'll be sending George Kittle down the seams and then having another wide receiver outside, like a Jawan Jennings or something, running a deep route. And he has to make the decision on who he wants to cover and cover that much ground, because we all know what happens when you put that strong safety decision who doesn't have fluid hips, but rather has stiff hips. Just saying it. Michael McCann says, Beast, you still have a pulse in San Francisco. What's the holdup on Brock Purdy's elbow surgery? That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. It's one of the, it's look, those things can be hard because anytime you have that type of an injury, and that was a freak accident type of a deal of an injury. And I was so upset the way it ended. I'm still upset about that, because you guys, the Niners, the way the end, I just wish you guys, I just wish that didn't happen. But yeah, I don't know. To get back to your question, I don't know. Now I do obviously, I have friends that obviously do work on the Niners and in the physical therapy aspect of it. I'm not going to go ahead and talk about that, but let's just put it this way. There's a reason and a rhyme for everything. So I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to, I don't really, and to be honest with you, I really don't know. I mean, anyone can tell you one thing, right? And then they do another. So I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Brock Purdy's injury. Or what the holdup is at that point. But thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate it, Michael. It's always a pleasure talking to you. But yeah, you definitely know. Hey, look, it's all about making connections and having integrity and doing the right thing. Always trying to do the right thing. And that's why I say anyone who's trying to break into the NFL media, you do the right thing, have integrity, have loyalty, be trustworthy, and everything's going to work out. Anytime people do things for clickbait, that annoys me. Like, I hate that. Hate's a strong word, but I hate that. I hate when people throw people, like throw shit at someone and they're nice to their face. It's like, dude, like what's the, that's not good vibes only. So it's crazy. It's crazy to me how people do that, but hey, whatever makes them money, man. I'm not hating, but that's not how I do business. The fact that Brock told Shanahan he is not good enough to play and put the team first got my respect. He understands what he does well to help the team. He really does, man. I never met Brock Purdy yet. That'd be cool to meet Brock Purdy. That would have been cool to meet Brock Purdy. SVT Vasquez, he said the Eagles pass rush, because that injury, they are beast up. They are, man. The Eagles pass rush is I'm telling you, the Eagles. Now watch them lose game. Fly, Eagles, fly. But no, my cousin's a huge Eagles fan from Philadelphia. I won't hear the end of it if they lose. Like, I'm telling you, if you know Philly people, they'll give it to you. Like, maybe we should have them on the live stream if they lose. I'm joking. I wouldn't do that to you, Wes. If you're watching, would never do that to you, Wes. But I do think it's hilarious, or Laura. But I think they're going to win. If you were to ask me who I want to win, I am a huge Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy supporter. I love Pat Mahomes, love Travis Kelce. I just think the Eagles are going to win. They're just too strong. They're just too dominant. They're going to be playing bully ball. They're going to keep the ball away from Pat Mahomes. That's what's going to happen. And people might call this game boring because it might be a slow game up. I tell you what, I was talking to one NFL exec the other day. And I said, look, if the Chiefs score first, we have a ball game. If the Eagles score a touchdown first and then they play keep away, it's going to be really hard for the Chiefs to come back from that because Pat Mahomes is going to be on the sideline because you know what Nick Sirianni is going to do? He's just going to run the ball all day long. Run, run, run. Oh, it's predictable, but they're getting first downs. Run, run, run. Run, run, run. Run, run, play action pass. Naked bootleg. Zone read option. It's really hard to stop this offense. That's all I got to say. And I think that if the Eagles win, well, it should be already, but the storyline will be if the Eagles win and Jalen Hurts, is a dual threat and he's named the Super Bowl MVP because he can do all these different things, rush for 65 yards, threw for another 265, had 350 yards of total offense, scored 4 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 2 passing, maybe 1 receiving. I don't know. crazy. I'm throwing random numbers out here. The funny thing about this is, what if I'm accurate and all this stuff comes true? I'm like, oh, maybe we should have put a bet on it. It's not happening like that. But I'm just saying, what if that happens, right? Like he runs for two rushing touchdowns from inside the 5, or maybe a naked bootleg or a zone read option type of a deal, or what. Throws for 2 passes in the red zone, has a clean game, only, no interceptions, or maybe 1 interception, 3-to-1 touchdown to turnover ratio. Or people are going to be like, oh man, let's look for that quarterback. Who can we get that resembles Bryce Young, bro? Bryce Young. CJ Stroud. There's another one. Will Levis. So yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this live stream. Again, I just want to say thank you to all the super chats and super stickers. Thank you so much, Auntie Six Soldier, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kevin Lurker, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. There's 15 of us watching right now. Just give this video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button on the lower right-hand screen if you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I'll be hopping on another live stream as we break down the NFL mock draft, as well as posting my fitness gains from time to time. So stay tuned for that. And as always, mahalo for the super chats as we keep things hot here in the DOB. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good day. That's it for now. BEASTwriter out.